Bit Harmony is a pleasure for all your senses. Yes, all of them. When you've heard over 4 hours of Matt and Seth talking about Super Monkey Ball music, you won't know where the borders of your sight, hearing, and smell begin or end. So lean back, close your eyes, light a candle, and start heating up that plump roast. The pleasure starts now.
You're listening. No, you're strapped in. You're ready to embark on another episode of Bit Harmony, a video game music podcast. I'll be your captain this episode, Matt.
Have at you. I'm Seth. Had to
So
do
you went with a thematic thing. I just started rambling on about captains and embarking.
Well, last week it was me doing that with we're doing like the cowboy thing, or last episode rather. I'm never going to stop saying last week. So this I wanted to be thematic this time.
I mean, hey, Symphony of the Night. It has a lot of quotable lines in it, so
Big time.
It's pretty good. You even had kind of a pirate bit mixed in with the actual have at you. It's pretty good. Yeah, this episode we're talking about Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I don't have too much of a preamble here. I'm excited to talk about this. This might be the first game we've covered on the show that I had the chance to fully replay, not just dabble in. So I'm kind of excited about that. Well, I guess I played through all of Tetris Effect last time, but that takes 2 hours or something. Anyway, our intro this episode is not actually from Symphony of the Night. It is a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate remix of Lost Painting from Symphony of the Night. So, again, that is going to be Lost Painting from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, arranged by Tetsuya Shibata, and we will be right back. And that was Lost Painting from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is a rearrangement of Lost Painting from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, arranged by Tetsuya Shibata. I hadn't looked anything up about Tetsuya Shibata. I ended up falling down weird rabbit holes this episode, but nothing about like actual Symphony of the Night. Like it's about this Smash Bros mix or about a voicemail song we're gonna get into in a little bit. So Shibata, real quick before we talk about the actual song, Shibata was mostly working at Capcom from the 90s through 2009. He left to form his own company called Unique Note, which that's a great name for like a music production company. Also his wife, Yoshino Aoki, was also a composer at Capcom and also left and is now vice president of Unique Note. So this is truly like the Capcom video game music composer power couple.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of cute. She worked on a lot of Mega Man soundtracks, and he worked on a lot of Devil May Cry soundtracks, which is also kind of funny for some reason. It's also funny because they both worked together on Final Fantasy 15 soundtrack along with Yoko Shimomura, which that's just a cool combination of people.
Yeah.
You played Final Fantasy 15, right, or at least a little bit of it?
I played a good amount of it. I platinumed that game. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good amount of it, I'd say.
I actually really like Final Fantasy 15. I know that's kind of an unpopular opinion, and the game is like extraordinarily flawed, but I really like a lot of that game. And yeah, I think I played it for like 80 hours. I mean, yeah.
Hey, I mean, I platinumed Final Fantasy 16, and that is also, I think, a pretty controversial Final Fantasy at this point. I guess they're kind of all controversial except for like 6, which is also funny because I don't like 6 that much. I know you're a big fan of 6, but yeah, it's funny. This Lost Painting arrangement, it basically just sounds like a Devil May Cry version of Lost Painting. So
right.
Looking this up, that he was the one that was making, I think he made or composed Devil May Cry 2, 3, and 4. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. Are you a Devil May Cry guy? You seem like you would have been like 20 years ago.
Oh, big time. When Devil May Cry was new, yes, absolutely. I thought, especially Devil May Cry 3 version of Dante, like if you like the intro of that game where he's like in his office like fighting demons with a pizza slice in his mouth, like dude, I was so about that. Like I was way into that. My friend Justin, who I've brought up several times on this show, growing up, was that was his favorite video game franchise, was Devil May Cry. And I remember when the Devil May Cry anime came out around like Devil May Cry 4, we were like way into that and everything, and like it's a series that I still have like some fondness for, and Devil May Cry 5 is actually probably my favorite one in the series.
Dude, Devil May Cry 5 rules, and I'm not even really that big of a Devil May Cry guy, but it's awesome.
I've liked them all, to be honest. It's, you know, I wouldn't take it over Bayonetta or something like that. Like if I'm going to play a game like that, I will typically go for something like Bayonetta. But I really enjoy pretty much every game in the series. Even like that Ninja Theory one, the DMC. I liked that. Like I
thought it was good.
Yeah.
Like I get there are some like tonal complaints with it or whatever that I get, but like especially the PS4 version, which I think was like the definitive version, it was running at a locked 60. Like to me, that was like just maybe not quite as good as like the best Devil May Cry games, but like it was like just as good as like any other like non Devil May Cry 3 or 5 action game. You know, like it was pretty damn good for what it was.
I liked it. Yeah, I never understood like all the complaints, and I do remember when that game was coming out, people hated that version of Dante so much they called him Dante, which was which I always thought was funny.
It's dumb, but also I at least appreciate that it's, you know, I saw a lot of like Dino, like Dante in name only stuff, right. So I at least appreciate Dante. That at least is a little bit of cleverness to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Devil May Cry, and you're right. This does kind of come off as like this is a little Devil May Cry code. It's really like guitar forward, you know. I do have tagged here at 142. There's a little like a quick, just a little like synth run in this arrangement that I really like. But otherwise, yeah, it's just a fun rearrangement, you know, just fun.
Yeah, it's funny, like, tonally, this couldn't sound more different than the original Lost Painting. We'll play that
Right.
later on down the episode. That's one of the most beloved songs. That might be the most beloved song off the soundtrack. It's not my favorite, but I don't know. I just always get a kick out of, especially in fighting games, when they rearrange other video game songs. And, like, this is a Smash Bros. Or for Smash Bros. So, like, it just has to sound very different. When they added Steve to Smash Bros, I was really mad that they didn't have any of the original Minecraft music in there, like the very gentle piano stuff. And I get why they didn't, but it was still like come on, you have like children singing Pikmin songs in here. You can at least put in one of the old Minecraft songs. I don't know if there was like a licensing thing going on or something, but yeah, it's fun. It's really fun when they go full out. It's like, okay, let's take Lost Painting, which is this very ethereal and beautiful. We're going to be comparing a lot of the soundtrack to the Weather Channel. That's a popular thing going on in like the YouTube comments and stuff, but it's true, at least for some of the songs. But yeah, you get this very ethereal and beautiful and like calm. I'm exploring this haunted castle, but it's kind of nice, at least in this area of music. And then you just turn it into like nothing but electric guitars for a few minutes. Yeah, that's what this version is. And, yeah, it's just really cool. They still keep a tiny bit of the old vibe. Like there's like kind of gentle like choral chants and stuff going on.
Right.
But yeah, for the most part, this is just a crunchy guitar version of Lost Painting, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's interesting too because I feel like, and maybe I'm off base about this, but whenever I hear people talk about Symphony of the Night, and this is another reason I'm actually excited to do this episode, I feel like a lot of people will, totally glaze Symphony of the Night. It's one of the best games ever made, blah, 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 blah. But then they'll say, but the soundtrack is like the weak part of it.
Wait,
like,
what?
I feel like I've heard a lot of people over the years say that the soundtrack is like the one, like, like chink in the armor or something for this game.
Huh. For me, I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like I've only ever heard great things about the soundtrack. But people are starting to come around on the idea that Symphony of the Night is like a little overrated, which I
Sure.
do think it is a little bit. But that's the first time I've honestly ever heard anyone be like, I don't know about this soundtrack.
Yeah, maybe it's just like the circles that I've run in. But I remember even like as a kid, like I remember my friend Justin again, who I played this game with. Like he was like, why? He's like, why does it sound like this down here?
I mean, like, we'll get into it, but like that is a valid question. But the soundtrack still rules. Like,
yeah, like why are you like in the catacombs and it sounds like like funky jazz Weather Channel stuff,
that's what makes it so good to me. But yeah,
me too.
It is a valid question of why does it sound like this down here?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting episode, I think. I have a lot of funny little, like, kind of personal life stories. This is going to go down in history as the one where Seth got weird about Alucard. So I'm looking forward to it.
Good. We got to be weird about Dante and Alucard in the same episode. With that said, I guess let's move on to our standard general housekeeping. I see there is a note about reviews.
Yeah, we did get a new anonymous 5-star review on iTunes, so thanks to whoever sent that in. There was no written review to it, so I don't know who left it, but you know who you are, whoever left it. Thank you very much for that. I did notice, and I'll just call this out 2 episodes in a row because I guess I have no shame. But I looked earlier in the week at our Spotify just to see if we'd had any new reviews on Spotify, and it was back up to 5 stars with a new review. And so I said, oh, maybe like the person that rated us less than the 5 stars heard us on the last episode, and maybe we guilted them into changing their review. But then
I really like the idea of pressuring people to look. You need to change your review.
Look, man, we need this more than you need this. All right,
that's true though.
But then I went back before just last night when I was putting my notes together to see if there was anything else, and it was back down to 16 and back down to 4.8 like it was the last episode. So I don't know if that's like Spotify weirdness or something. To be fair, Spotify has been pretty janky lately. Like they've had a lot of like server load, I guess, lately, and it was straight up down for a wide portion of like the day before yesterday. So
okay.
So I think maybe there's a little bit of Spotify weirdness going on there. But you know, if we did pressure you into changing a review to a 5-star one, then that's okay too.
And if we didn't pressure you yet, you're gonna keep hearing about it until you change your review.
I mean, look, if you're listening to every episode, we probably earned it, man.
I also like the idea if they're not sure if we're talking about them. I hope they don't mean me.
Yeah, we should just like start throwing out random names every episode, and like maybe we'll just land on it. You know?
Yeah,
just
Kevin,
like
change your review.
Brian, change your review, dude. All right.
And then everyone named Kevin that did leave a 5-star is going to change it to a 1-star.
They're all freaking out. Yeah. So anyway, thank you to whoever left the anonymous 5-star review on iTunes. We appreciate it.
It's making up for Kevin over here on Spotify.
We also, speaking of Spotify, we do have some Spotify comments.
I've been
first
waiting
of all
all
from
week
Wilk.
for this. Yeah.
Oh yeah. First of all, from Wilk, on the last episode on Tetris Effect, his comment here says, saying a song title is good is not, in all caps, the same as saying the song titles are crazy. Let's please respond to what I'm saying. Which is a crazy comment, dude. What? And he knows that. And he knows that. I know it's for the bit. That's a crazy comment. That's wild. I'll say that. Your comment was crazy, Wilk.
Yeah, the comment was crazy, but not the song title.
Yeah, and I did think in my lowest, pettiest moment when I first saw this comment come in, because you know how Wilk is, like he went into our group chat and he was like, just left a comment, it's really gonna make moves, you know, the next episode of Bit Harmony is gonna go crazy. He just said some junk like that, and I was like, oh yeah, I saw your comment come in, I'll respond to it. And what I thought about doing was I thought about re-listening to the episode and timestamping every time I talked about the song titles, because
it does happen multiple times. It absolutely does.
It does. And it's just so funny that he was like very hung up on the fact that I didn't use the word crazy when talking about the song titles. So
I think with Swimming in the Rain, I think you even say like it's an evocative song title.
We talk about it multiple times. We talked about it with the apple cider or cider time. Like it came up consistently peppered throughout the episode. It's wild, dude. I don't know what to tell you, Wilk.
This episode is just turning into we're just calling everyone out. It's just no one is safe. This is all we're doing this episode.
Everyone can get it. Everyone can catch these hands, man. Yeah. Well, he asked. I mean, Wilk lives for this. He lives for this. Okay, well, we had another comment from Jim, who's been going back, I guess, and listening to the old episodes, which is cool, because he commented on the 2024 Midway check-in episode, and he says, ha 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 ha, when y'all read that YouTube comment about, oh baby, just you shut your mouth, I was immediately thinking of Sean Connery also. I must have brought up the fact that Sean Connery, like, used to hit women.
Yeah, of course, naturally. I remember it was a YouTube comment about the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth soundtrack, and it was like,
right.
And then you brought up that just "Oh you baby, just shut your mouth" or whatever. That it sounds like Sean Connery. You talked about an interview where Sean Connery just talked about openly beating women or something. Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. Yeah,
it's wild that Jim immediately thought of the same thing. That's crazy that we were on the same wavelength like that. So shout outs to Jim.
Yeah, shout outs to Jim. He left a voicemail, which we'll get to in a little bit. Yeah, just big shout outs to Jim in general. Yeah, so I guess that's all we had for the reviews and the comments. Thankfully, no more people we got to lambast today. As for a post-mortem on Tetris Effect, for one, I'll just say the time between recording Dust Force and Tetris Effect felt very long to me, to the point where I'm like, man, it feels like it's been like a month since we did this. Whereas now, between Tetris Effect and Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I'm like, wow, it feels like it's only been like half a week since we were here recording this, which isn't much of a post-mortem, I understand. But Yeah, the only real postmortem I had, I think it was a pretty good episode. I can hear how tired I am in the episode, but it's still better than the Stardew Valley one.
We were really losing it by the end, but like
Yeah.
we were barely hanging on by the end of that episode.
Okay.
Dude.
Because again, my wife and I both had like 3 hours of sleep that day. Then we went out to the city and done shopping for her dad's birthday, and then come back. We ate dinner at like 2 p.m. and then I instantly hopped on a 4-hour call with you. And then on our breaks, I would go check on her on the couch, and she was doing fine. And then we recorded the last like hour and a half of the podcast all in one go without getting up. So it'd been a while since I checked on her. I go over there, and she looks like a zombie. And I said, "Dear, are you okay?" Like genuine concern in my voice. And she just slowly looks over at me, and she just goes, "I'm so tired." And because she probably wouldn't have taken a nap, except we got 2 idiots over here yelling about Tetris Effect, making them cry for hours.
Tetris Effect. Yeah. She's like, dude, I'm in hell right now. I want nothing more than the sweet release of death. Oh man. Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope that you guys finally got to catch up on sleep, and that that she ended up feeling okay in the end, because we were going through it that episode. But you know what though, there was a certain manic energy at the end of the episode that I really appreciated, to the point where like I've gone back and listened to like just the YouTube comments section of that episode multiple times, because there's just so much just manic, feverish laughter in it.
It's funny. I remember laughing a lot at the YouTube comments, but I honestly don't remember any of them now. This is probably the one time where I don't remember the comments at this point.
Yeah, it was. I do remember. It was you told the story of the streamer that said no emotion.
Oh yeah.
That got me real good. It's a good episode.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I will also just shout out that there's a lot of Tetris talk in the Discord.
Yeah.
Which, we talked about on the episode how Tetris is so universal, and like everyone has played a version of Tetris or whatever. So I guess it shouldn't have shocked me, but it did shock me that like how many people were coming out just to talk about Tetris. Like, hey, what version of Tetris should my niece get on mobile or on Android? Right. And like people talking about Tetris DS, we're talking about Puyo Puyo and stuff, other falling block games. Like I was kind of surprised, like, because even though Tetris is universal, it's still like, well, how much can you really say about Tetris? But again, we had a 4-hour podcast about Tetris Effect, so
yeah, it just goes to show like how universal and wide-reaching it is. I will also say, we obviously talked extensively about the Nutcracker, and Hopple came in and looked into Hamburg's like I guess like tickets for seeing the Nutcracker in Hamburg. So now I just want you to know how happy it would make me if you and Tosh went to see the Nutcracker live and reported back on the show.
I've forgotten to ask her about any of her thoughts on this at all. I don't know if she's ever seen the Nutcracker either. My hunch is that she wouldn't be opposed, but yeah, I just have to see. We have to see what's going on, what schedules are like in like November or December.
Yeah,
I have a hunch she'd be down, but yeah, I don't know. I'll have to ask her about it.
That would
honestly
be so rad.
I completely forgot up until now. We're going. Not that this has anything to do with anything. I think next weekend we're going to like some gaming convention thingy.
Oh, cool.
That's like downtown. I was thinking about trying to make BitHarmony like business cards, but then I'm like, do Germans care about
Americans talking about video game music?
yeah, basically. Well, hey, Hopple might, at least the Tetris Effect episode. So
that's true. Yeah. Also, just real quick, Hopple mentioned, and I'm guessing this is the German way of saying Nutcracker. Is it Nussknacker? Is that what this is?
Nussknacker, I would assume.
Nussknacker. That's very good. I just want to say that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, a lot of words in German, you can figure it out just with a little bit of context. Like, yeah, Nuss is nut, and Knack kind of sounds like crack a little bit. So
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can kind of, even like the screenshot that Hopple posted about the, I could kind of make out, what some of these words maybe are and what they might mean,
It's interesting. Like someone was asking me about like the German word for dog is like Hund, and it's
Right.
basically just
Like
hound,
hound.
but without the O. Yeah, like
Right.
there's a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, it's more so the verbs. The verbs will get you. We don't need to get super into it. Okay, here's the major issue with German, especially coming to it from an American perspective or an English speaking perspective. Every noun has like a different article. So like in everything in English is the dog, the house, the TV, whatever. Every noun has a different has either der, dir, das. There is no universal article, so you have to memorize der, dir, das for every single noun, and then depending on its position in the sentence, it can change to dame or dane. Like it is awful.
That's brutal.
It is like German is not that bad. In fact, I think German's actually relatively simple in terms of like the sentence structure, except for that. Those articles will get you. I don't know how we're talking about this right now, but anyone wanting to learn German, you got. There's a whole bunch of tricks that I tried to learn those damn articles, and it sucks. It's bad. Just don't do it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we do have some voicemails to get into. I do want to say too, this is a little bit interesting. We had, I felt like, more interest in voicemails with this one too. Like we have a couple to get into, and there's an interesting thing happening with Presto, who didn't have time to send in a voicemail but did still send in something. And then Sparky said it's about time I made contact. which was pretty good.
But then he didn't make contact.
Didn't make contact. Sparky's a busy guy. Sparky's like flying all over the world. But so I get it. But I did just find that funny. That was very good. It's about time I made contact. So hopefully we'll hear from Sparky soon.
It was very, very dramatic sounding. Yeah, I got a kick out of it.
I love it. Okay, well, do we want to start off then with our first voicemail from Parker?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Hey, it's me again, Parker. So, what's your favorite piece of licensed music in the boss fights of HiFi Rush? Mine is Free Radicals by the Flaming Lips. I didn't heard the Flaming Lips' song, Free Radicals, and or the 9 Inch Nails 1 Million. That song's a little bit explicit for your family-friendly podcast. And my favorite song from the Hi-Fi Rush soundtrack is The Beacon by the Glass Pyramids. And hope you find this message well. Bye.
Let's go. Let's go, Parker. Let's go, Hi-Fi Rush. This made me happy.
Yeah, I have no experience with Hi-Fi Rush. I think the game looks really cool. It sounds really cool. Everything about it sounds pretty cool. I'll be honest, the soundtrack is not really up my alley.
Sure.
I mean, I'm familiar with 9 Inch Nails and the Flaming Lips and stuff. It's just not really what I listen to. Also, yeah, we don't have an Xbox. We don't have that powerful of a PC. I guess it is on PS5 now, so I guess I could.
It is now. Yeah, you can get it.
But yeah, it just isn't like in my wheelhouse generally, and I just haven't checked it out. I should. I probably will at some point. It's just like a fan of music and video games. It makes sense to check out something like this. But yeah, because of the fact that I'm not that into any of these artists, basically, I kind of diverted to Seth on this a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. No, I love Hi-Fi Rush. Last year, 2023 was like a crazy year for video games. Hi-Fi Rush didn't quite make my top 10, but it would have been my number like 11. Like I loved it. Like I had a great time with it. And it could not be more of a me game. Like it's colorful, cel shaded. It's got music. It's a really interesting. We brought up Devil May Cry earlier. Like it kind of feels like a Devil May Cry thing. Like if Devil May Cry and like Crypt of the Necrodancer like had a baby, it would probably be kind of like this. And yeah, the game's great, and it deserved better than it got. I'm glad that team has kind of found, I guess, a new home with like the PUBG people, who like also bought like the rights to Hi-Fi Rush. So that's cool. Hopefully that means that can continue in some way. But I loved it, and I the music for me is a little hit or miss. I actually don't think the game needed like to rely on licensed music really at all. which is fine, but it did give like some weight to some of the moments. Parker mentions like the boss fights in particular always have a licensed song associated with them, and sometimes it's kind of cool. Like there's like Black Keys. He mentions Nine Inch Nails. I think my favorite boss fight song in terms of like a boss fight song is the it's called Fast As You Can, where you fight the boss Mimosa, and it's actually they got the license to a lot of these to a lot of these songs, but for some of them they had their in-house band Elsinore do covers of them. And so they actually had a band that they formed in-house at Tango Gameworks just to make covers of the songs they couldn't get the rights to. So Fast As You Can is originally a Fiona Apple song, but they couldn't get the rights to it and they still wanted it in the game, so they just had their own band cover it, which I thought was cute. So, it's just kind of fun that like they very clearly, when they were like coming up with the boss fights of this game, had those songs in mind, and they're like, well, we're gonna go after this song, and if we can't get it, then we'll just cover it ourselves.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I remember playing the original Guitar Hero on PS2, and they had almost no original versions of the songs. It was almost all covers. And in future entries, they stepped away from that. They started, they became big enough they could afford, they could negotiate the licensing rights to the original versions of songs, and that's cool, and I get it. But like, there was something way more, like cozy and homey feeling about Guitar Hero 1 and 2, I guess.
Right.
Where like knowing that like, yeah, they got all these people to come make cover versions of all these songs, like. There's I think footage in the game of them like playing the music and then covering the songs, and like it just seems real fun. Like it seems like they were all having a great time, and like to me that's kind of less exciting than like, or it is more exciting than we're gonna just get the masters and just plop that in the game. I don't know. I always kind of resented that about later Guitar Heroes and Rock Band, that like the covers kind of went away.
Yeah, it's it does give it a little bit more of like a homegrown feel, and I just like that they cared about it that much. But with that being said, though, my favorite song in the game, they play Whirring by the Joy Formidable, which is a great song. I love that song, but it's played in kind of like the ramp up to the game's finale, and it's just a really cool, like, I don't know, crescendoing moment. Like this game has a really good sense of like culmination and like closing loops, and like like all of your friends that you've made like along the way join you. It's a very like anime power of friendship, sort of thing set to this song, and something about it, like just the I guess like rhythmic nature of that song, married with the gameplay, married with what you're doing, and all the emotions of everything that you're doing. It just is an excellent. It's my favorite moment in the entire game, so that has to be my pick for my favorite song on the soundtrack. But I love that you played it, Parker, and that you like the music. We don't really play like licensed music a lot of the times on this podcast, so it doesn't really make sense for us to do a Hi-Fi Rush episode. But never say never, I guess. I love that game. So.
Sure. And yeah, otherwise, we would normally do a dedicated break to play something from here, but yeah, I'll have something beneath us from the game while we're talking about it. But yeah, it's one of those things, I don't really want to dance that close to the devil of putting like a song like that, like a Nine Inch Nails song in our podcast kind of thing.
Trent Reznor comes after us. We don't need any of that smoke.
But yeah, thank you for the voicemail, and I'll just go so far as to say, based on your previous voicemails, Parker, I was surprised that you wanted to hear us talk about Hi-Fi Rush. I don't know, it didn't seem like something you would be as interested in, so I think that's really cool that you called in about that.
I like to imagine that Parker, just since we last heard from him, just became like hardcore into like Nine Inch Nails, and he was just like, I gotta talk to the guys about Nine Inch Nails. He's like, you might not want to play this on your family friendly podcast, like that. Parker
We should
just
have
got
like
hardcore.
we should have like an after dark unedited version of Bit Harmony, which is basically just the same thing, except I don't bleep out the like 2 swears that have happened on the show,
Yeah.
and we play Nine Inch Nails beneath us the entire time.
Oh yeah, I imagine Parker, like, since we last heard from him, like his wallet's got a chain on it now, you know, stuff like that. He just got real hardcore in the past few weeks.
Things have happened in a couple months, man. I get it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're right. Okay, well, we got another voicemail here from Jim. So should we Jim's first voicemail here? Should we roll that out?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey fellas, this is Jim. I was hoping to get this in after the Dust Forso before the Tetris effect, but here I am, first voicemail. Again, it's Jim.
Hey, Jim.
I saw Dust Forso super jazzed. I listened to heck up a lot of that. I think I never played the game until a long while after listening, and I was like, this is not for me. I feel like the controls were like a lot or something. And like, since Meat Boy was like so good, and I thought it'd be similar, it just like never connected.
Mm-hmm.
The soundtrack, so sick, loved it. I hadn't listened to it a really, really, really long time. The first 3 songs y'all played, I just had like goosebumps. It was so sick.
Yeah.
I think Frozen Hot Sauce was definitely my favorite from what I remember. Getting listened to in the car all the time with Murray. I want to say, and I'm curious, that maybe the soundtrack came out well before the game. But maybe that's silly, because I feel like I never got the opportunity to play the game until a long while. But, yeah. Murray mentioning Breakbot was a hoot. I took a photo of these CDs out of my car recently, and it was a real flashback. I was curious if maybe for a future show y'all would think about, you were talking about Plock, maybe the Tim Follin or the Follin Bros all together. They have a really cool library, a lot of obscure, kind of not good games, but great music. To connect to Tetris Effect, I had never heard of it. It sounds crazy, but I thought about Tetris Attack and a song I wanted y'all to give a listen to, and maybe it's a really well-known one, I don't know. But it's called A Walk on a Rainbow from Tetris Attack for Super Nintendo. Love it. Like, it kind of makes you well up with tears. It seems so special. Seems so just, like, awesome. But you guys are doing a super good job. It's super entertaining. You know, you guys got a passion. I like listening. It's long, but I like to listen. And keep it up, boys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I don't know if the Dust Force soundtrack came out before the game. I would hazard to guess no, but yeah, I don't remember. But I do remember experiencing the soundtrack like separately on its own from the game, like that. In our like friend group that was listening to it, like, yeah, none of us really played the game. Again, I tried a couple of years later. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Like Jim said, wasn't really into it at the time. Yeah, it's just one of those things. We talked about it on the episode, but yeah, I just wanted it to be something that it wasn't, and it wasn't until revisiting it for this podcast where I was able to more appreciate it for what it was, kind of thing.
Yeah, and he mentioned, so Jim joined the Discord, and he mentioned that he shared like pictures of like his like CD case with all that stuff, just like with the Breakbot like burnt CD, the Fastfall Dust Force OST, like that. Just something about seeing, like, I love that he still has that. Like,
yeah,
just something about that, man. Like we all had like that in our car, you know?
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, he messaged me the pictures privately, like while I was sleeping one night, and that was like the first thing I saw when I woke up, seeing like the Dust Force and the Cure Greatest Hits pictures.
So good.
And yeah, it got me pretty good. It's so funny because they're just silver CDRs with Sharpie writing on them, and I'm like, oh yeah. this is
the stuff. There's just something about that. Like, I remember, like, you'd go to like Walmart or whatever and just buy like that big jewel case full of blank CDs, and it's just like, oh yeah, dude, like this is possibility right here.
Yeah, yeah. It was genuinely exciting. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get home. I'm gonna burn a few mixtape CDs, and it's
Hell
gonna be
yeah.
cool. All the girls will think I'm real cool listening to Breakbot in my car, kind of thing. No one did. I remember. I think I I had a mixtape. We talked about Nujabes multiple times on this podcast. Also talked about this dude I worked with on the podcast before, the furry. I think Robert was his name, and he listened to like real bad music. I don't remember what it was, but it was real bad. And he'd been in my car once, like we went out to lunch on our work break one time. And he's like, "Hey, can you let me borrow that? I have a date tomorrow. I'd really like to like have something cool sounding in the car." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, man." I just handed him my mixtape of Nujabes music. He was saying the next day, he's like, "Yeah, that date didn't go so well, but she did really like your mixtape."
Let's go.
But yeah, like it was just cool. I mean, obviously, I don't know how like teenagers and young adults do it now. I guess you just send each other like Spotify playlists or whatever. But yeah, there was something. It was cool. It was cool giving each other mixtapes or mixtape CDs or mixed CDs. Yeah, I don't know. It was exciting back then. I didn't even realize when I leased my first car, like my first new car in like 2014 or something. Took me months to realize like, oh, there's not even a CD player in this thing. Like it is just connecting to my phone. That was kind of a shock to me at the time.
Yeah. It's just interesting too, right? Because I mean, like now, most new computers don't even come with a disk drive,
right?
you know, and back then, like, yeah, like I remember when my friend Ira was making his first like EP, like, yeah, he burnt that stuff onto like a discs and like sold them to people out of the Lowe's parking lot. you know,
dude, my dad, I'm not close with my dad. I haven't seen him in like nearly 20 years. I think I did inherit part of my passion for music from him. But again, the music he was passionate about, I would largely consider to be pretty bad. He liked some good stuff. I'll give him credit, but like it was mostly like bad at best. When like CD burners were new, so we're talking like late 90s kind of thing. He was so excited. He was so jacked about being able to make his own CDs kind of thing. He made multiple CDs, and he probably named them Murray's Mix. And then he liked drawing, so he even drew like little covers for them. And it was like a mosh pit of people going nutty or whatever that he drew for the Murray's Mix.
Let's go.
And then I remember one of the CDs opened with Cat Scratch Fever.
Oh, let's go.
Even as like a 9-year-old, I was like, "Dad, this sucks." Like, why wasn't that song in Hi-Fi Rush?
Yeah, where was the boss fight set to Cat Scratch Fever? That would have been something.
But yeah, when it comes to Tim Follin, we've even talked about doing a Tim Follin episode. I think
we should
we should probably do that. We've talked about doing like a composer specific episode before. I don't know. Tim Follin keeps coming up. We should probably just do it at some point.
We should, yeah. Just one of these days, we should just rip off the. It's funny. We have pretty much like the rest of the year planned out for Bit Harmony episodes, but maybe sometime next year we should just like just go ahead and just bank on the Tim Follin thing. We've been talking about it for so long. Maybe it's finally time.
Yeah. When it comes to Jim's music requests or song requests, we will get to that in a second. Presto did email us. He didn't have time to leave a voicemail as we stated earlier, but he wanted us to introduce his random song of the episode as thus. So let me look over here and read this. Here's the song. If I don't have time to send in a voicemail, just intro this live on the show as the random song of the episode. Final Boss Chan Presto's version. This is from Beat Saber, the like rhythm VR game where you're kind of doing lightsabers in VR.
Right.
As far as I can tell, this is just like a really hard late game. I assume maybe at one point this even was like the final hardest song in the game. I don't know if that's still true now. And I believe this is in response to the fact that like we use recordings of me playing a couple Tetris Effect levels in the Tetris Effect episode. So he wanted to do that here. We'll play a little bit of it. I'll just say the video Presto sent over has very crush low bitrate audio.
Yeah.
So I will play a little bit of it, but I don't want to play like a full 3.5 minute song of it. I hope you understand, Presto. Just the quality is very low, and I don't want to. It's also funny contrasting this with Jim's song requests, which might
They
make the whole
couldn't be
thing
more different. Yeah,
They are on completely different planets, basically.
totally.
So with that said, let's go on our break, and hopefully my neighbors stop drilling. We got from Tetris Attack, A Walk on a Rainbow. This might also be called Staff Roll or Versus Ending. I couldn't figure out what was the official name. And then Final Boss Chan, the Presto Mix. And we will be right back. And that was A Walk on a Rainbow from Tetris Attack and the final Boss Chan Presto mix. Let's talk a little bit about Tetris Attack, A Walk on a Rainbow first. For one, I don't know, is this like a niche song? I've heard it before, but also I've heard a lot of like niche songs, so I don't know. I don't know like how well known this song is.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't familiar with it. This is my first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is my first time hearing it. I mean, I'd heard like Tetris Attack stuff, I think tangentially, but I don't know that I've ever like sat down and like listened to, especially since I've never played it. I don't know that I've ever like sat down and really listened to the soundtrack. So I think this if this wasn't my first time hearing it, I don't remember hearing it before.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard it on like probably like YouTube videos of like the best relaxing Super Nintendo music stuff before. Wherever I heard it, yeah, it caught my eye. Like this has been in my video game music playlist for a really long time, but I guess yeah, Tetris Attack is pretty niche, so I guess this song must be pretty niche. I will note the original game Panel de Pon that is on the NSO, the Super Nintendo app. So if people are wanting to play a falling block puzzle game that isn't Tetris, you have a free one if you have NSO. I think the soundtracks are largely the same between Tetris Attack and Panel de Pon. It's just Panel de Pon has a Yoshi, or Tetris Attack has a Yoshi's Island theme, but I think besides a couple songs, they are largely the same, including this song. Because I think this is like the end of like the versus mode or something. What did you think about it then, if this is like your first time hearing it?
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I don't have a lot of notes on it, but it instantly like, yeah, it's very calming. It's very cozy. It's like ethereal. It's kind of like innocent, right? Like it feels like childish in a way. Like it kind of, yeah, it just kind of feels nostalgic, you know. For some reason, like I was trying to find examples of what I'm talking about, but I guess just broadly, it for some reason made me think of like free-to-play PC stuff like Neopets or like Club Penguin or something. Like,
okay.
I don't know why. Like for some reason that was instantly like the place I went to when hearing it. Just kind of like the, I guess, simplicity of it, but also the calming nature of it. It reminds me of like, you know, like playing like Mission in Snowdrift Land and like stuff like this. Like just, yeah, like free-to-play like PC stuff when you're like a, you know, young teenager or preteen.
Yeah, no, I kind of get that. There's even kind of like I don't know the word I want to use, kind of almost like an echoey quality to it. Like there's like a chambery kind of thing going on with it. Yeah, I don't have too many specific song or notes about the song. I will say, yeah, this is one of my favorite Super Nintendo songs. Like it is truly, it's right up there with like any Donkey Kong Country or SquareSoft SNES song to me. Specifically, yeah, it gives me a lot of like Secret of Mana or Chrono Trigger. We really should do a Secret of Mana episode one of these days.
I'd be down. Yeah.
Also, while I was looking for comments on YouTube, a lot of Dead Grandma variety comments for this song specifically, like multiple across multiple versions, multiple uploads of this song. Which I mean, I guess kind of makes sense. There is like a melancholy to this song or whatever, and yeah, the gentleness going on. I will say this is maybe the weirdest rabbit hole I decided to fall down for this episode, because we're not covering Tetris Attack here, but I did look up the composer. I was expecting to find like a general like Nintendo mainstay composer in here, or an intelligent systems composer. That is not the case. This is composed by Masaya Kozumi, who doesn't seem to have done anything in video games in decades. And I can only find 3 games that he was a composer for. That would be Metal Combat Falcon's Revenge on Super Nintendo, this, and a PlayStation 1 game called Bealfareth. It's like Bealphareth. Bealfareth. I have no idea.
Okay.
He is also listed as a writer and a planner on Bealfareth. I went out of my way to listen to some of the soundtrack this morning just because I was, I don't know, bored and waiting to record. I'm like, I'll listen to some of this Bealfareth. It's pretty dang good. It sounds, honestly, there's one specific song I heard called Cantere, and I'm guessing that's like a town name. It sounds a lot like this, but just in higher quality because it's PS1 and not Super Nintendo. Just like a lot of soft, gentle acoustic guitar and bells. And again, it's got that kind of echoey feel going on. In my cursory look at the game this morning, it's some kind of like grid-based semi-action RPG thing.
Yeah, it looks like a grid-based dungeon crawler sort of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of given me like a mix of like Ys and Mystery Dungeon. Again, I've never heard of this. I'm guessing it never got localized. The only videos I found were in Japanese. It was appearing on multiple criminally overlooked PS1 JRPG lists while I was looking this up. So apparently Bjálfarith is great, apparently.
The box art for the game just looks like a heavy metal album cover, essentially. Like just the font of it.
Yeah. One of the covers I found, I don't know if it's like the instruction manual or the actual cover, but like there's just like a lot of weapons on there, and then like the names of the weapons, and like one of them was like the apocalyptic bow or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's very like late 90s. I think it came out in 2000. He worked on a Fire Emblem game, a Super Nintendo Fire Emblem game that never got localized. So I'm guessing like he has some passion for like strategy RPG stuff going on. Yeah, like I said, he composed, wrote, and planned on Bjálfarith, not just composer. So couldn't find much other information other than that stuff. But yeah, I thought it was very interesting.
That is interesting. Well, it's funny too, because like, you know, a lot of times, especially back then, like that essentially was like the word for director, you know, back then was like planner. Because they didn't, I guess, have like a like the video games are still kind of new. They didn't know like how they wanted to describe what that job was, and yeah, like you are just kind of planning stuff. So that's interesting. I bet that was like a passion project for him.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it too. And again, the fact that it's apparently a criminally underrated PS1 game is interesting to hear. But yeah, I think that's all I had to say about A Walk on a Rainbow. It's just one of my favorite Super Nintendo songs, and now I found this whole other soundtrack that I'd never heard of before that sounds pretty good from what I've heard.
That's sick. Yeah, that's sick.
When it comes to Final Boss Chan in general, not just the Presto mix, I had no idea what to make of this when this came in and I listened to it. It is very, very hectic. You know, we talked about a little bit about this before we were recording. Like, yeah, it made me feel a little old. It is a lot, even in like the non-Presto version, like just the normal studio version, I guess you'd say. If I'm being honest, this might be the oldest person thing I've ever said. It sounded like a lot of noise to me.
I can't hear myself think.
Yeah.
I felt like an old man listening to this too. It's just not my cup of tea. It is what it is. It's like in that kind of like you know, hyper pop, you know, dubstep adjacent, you know, sort of thing. And you know, like what's funny is, so Presto emailed us this because actually it was a video of Presto just playing it, and it was just this like, as you mentioned, very low quality, like 128p video of Presto playing this thing on, and he did well. I was like, this is impressive Beat Saber gameplay, you know. But yeah, it wasn't really like, the song itself wasn't like super my cup of tea, and it definitely like hit me of like, oh yeah, I'm like old, like this is, you know, this is a young man song. I feel like Final Boss Chan.
Were you the kind of person that like listened to Through the Fire and Flames like outside of Guitar Hero?
When I was, you know, I've seen Dragon Force live actually.
So yeah.
Yeah, so like there was a time in my life where I was, yeah, for sure. But you know, it was probably when I was like not that much older than Presto, you know.
Right.
And like that's a thing too, where like when I was a teenager kind of coming into young adulthood, I had a phase where it was like just all metal or all like prog rock or whatever, like no in between. And now my taste is like super eclectic. As I'm, you know, growing, I could be listening to like, you know, whatever, Kanye 1 minute and then, you know, jazz the next. I just have a very eclectic taste, but you know, there was a time where I just kind of like picked a lane and stayed in it. And I remember seeing Dragon Force in Montana. I lived in Helena, Montana for like 9 months when I was, like 17 or something like that, and I saw Dragon Force at like an opera house in Montana, and it was really cool. Actually, it was a very cool like venue to see them. It was all like wooden, and like the acoustics in the room were like you could hear a pin drop in there. And like it was kind of crazy to hear like wall of sound, like, you know, like very like technical guitar, because like Herman Lee's like an insane guitar player, and like just hearing like that kind of music in that setting was really kind of interesting. It's one of the more memorable concerts I've been to in my life. And yeah, I don't know. So anyway, TLDR, yes, I definitely have been that guy. And you know, I've kind of grown out of that sort of thing, but I can see the appeal in that time of my life, in that headspace. I get it, you know?
Yeah. No, yeah, the only reason I bring it up is because like I was never really that guy, but I still had Through the Fire and Flames on my iPod Shuffle back in 2008 or whatever, right? So it's just like I get it. It's not me trying to make fun of anyone that's like into this. It's just it is very much like a, oh yeah, I'm too old for this kind of thing. I did it. This is by Camellia, is their YouTube channel name. I did explore their YouTube channel a bit, and it is all stuff like this. I mean, I shouldn't say it's like all on this level or anything, but like there's like a Hatsune Miku song they did, or rather, when I say Hatsune Miku song, I believe what it is they have like the Vocaloid program that lets them make Miku stuff. So it's like, I don't know if it's their own Miku song that they made or if it's a cover of a Miku song that they did. They also had a Megalovania from Undertale song on there that had like 26 million views. I liked that one more because, again, it actually had like a discernible melody for me to latch onto and cling onto for dear life. But yeah, again, this isn't me discouraging Presto you from like sending stuff like this in. Again, I hope it doesn't come across like I'm having a go at you. It's just not my type of music, but I do think it's interesting to hear. It's funny, I'm going to say this. I didn't know that Presto was into Beat Saber, but for some reason, Presto being into Beat Saber makes perfect sense. And I don't really know why.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I mean, if I had VR, I think that's one of the things I would try to play too. For sure. You know what this made me? Did you ever play Thumper? Did you ever play that?
Mm-hmm.
Like Thumper is like a rhythm game, but it has like a kind of like oppressive like wall of sound kind of vibe to it that this sort of reminds me of. And I liked Thumper well enough, but I remember playing it when it came out on, I think, PS4 and being like, I'll probably never play that again.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, it's funny because Thumper I think I played that in VR like once when I had my PSVR.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I played through the game like normally once. I'm like, man, what a cool game. But then I didn't think about it again until it came out on Switch. And then I think I bought it on Switch and I played like 3 levels. I'm like, I can't do this again. Like, I can't do
Yeah, it's like, it's intense, right? Like there's a certain like, I don't know, oppressive is the word I keep coming back to. It just like, I can't, I do feel like I have a hard time like kind of like finding, you know, some sort of tether through the noise or something like that. But again, that's just me. So but I'm glad. I mean, I am frankly glad. My favorite thing about taking voicemails on this show is listening to stuff that I would have otherwise never heard. You know, and there is no chance I would have ever heard this song had Presto not sent it in. So
right, yeah, I don't know anything about Beat Saber beyond like the core, like you're waving your arms like you're holding lightsabers to hit notes. That's all I know about it. So didn't know even what kind of music was in here. I mean, yeah, this also reminds me of like any Japanese rhythm arcade game from 20 years ago. Like the final level would also sound like this. But yeah, I guess that is it for our voicemails this episode. As a reminder, you can, of course, send in voicemails to either bitharmonypod@gmail.com, or you can dial in to 216-230-8540. That number, once again, is 216-230-8540. Try and keep those under 3 minutes because it will just boot you out, apparently. At least that happened once. Maybe that was just a fluke. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, send them in. We always like taking them. It's one of my favorite parts of doing the show. So send them in.
It is my favorite part of doing this. Now we got to do the stinky Castlevania stuff.
Now I got to can't this just be the podcast? Like, can we just go home now? Now I got to talk about Symphony of the Night.
With that said, we're going to go on a break for The Tragic Prince and Marble Gallery, both from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and we will be right back. And that was once again The Tragic Prince and Marble Gallery, both off of the Castlevania Symphony of the Night soundtrack that's composed by Michiru Yamane. We will talk about her in a little bit, but first, what do we think about these songs?
So for The Tragic Prince, my first note here is this is peak 90s vampire boy rock. Which is like, very much like, when I think about this game, this is one of the songs that immediately, comes to mind for me. Like this just is kind of, Symphony of the Night for me. Just that kind of really good balance of like, Castlevania music for me is defined by sort of like arpeggiated melodies, especially in the NES era. And just in general, I do find myself preferring the music of NES Castlevania games to something like this, because when we get to Symphony of the Night, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, it leaned a lot more heavily into like instrumentation, just by virtue of it being on the PS1. It leaned a lot more heavily into like rock influences and jazz and funk influences and stuff like this. But this song to me feels like a really good kind of like fusion. It's like the right kind of cheesy for what this is. I have a note here at 125. There's a break in the drums before they just go into like double time. They just go like crazy at that point of the song, which is really fun. And then there's a little bridge passage around the 2-minute mark where it uses like a little triangle like piece. Like I love it anytime you can earnestly work triangle into a song. I really like, so shout outs to that. It's good. It's one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to open us up with like, I don't know, something that not one of the more ethereal songs. I want to just come in here with some Castlevania ass song, and like this is the most like classic Castlevania sounding song on the soundtrack. I will note, I'm not even someone that normally notices this type of stuff. It is wild how good this song is, considering how out of tune that guitar is. It is crazy. Did you know this factoid? I knew it, but I kind of forgot it till now. But Tak Fuji is the one that played the guitar on the soundtrack. Do you remember who Tak Fuji is?
No.
Do you remember what year was that? It was a Konami E3 press conference, like the infamously bad one. It was like 2008 or 9 or something.
I did know this. Yes, that's right. Yes,
and it's the dude who came up on stage with like dreads. He was just talking about 1 million troops in the game 99 Nights.
Troops.
Yeah. Which is funny. I believe Mizuguchi was also involved with that game.
I think he's the director of it.
Yeah, I think so. We talked about Mizuguchi extensively on the Tetris Effect episode. I just didn't feel the need to bring up 99 Nights, but then here we are talking about 99 Nights anyway. Yeah, so that dude, I remember reading an interview with him years ago where he was just like, someone asked him about this song, and he's like, yeah, I played guitar on it. It's like one of my favorite things I've ever done, ever. I just really wish I'd tuned my guitar before I walked into the recording studio.
That's funny. Yeah, you could kind of tell. But it kind of works. Like there's just something a little messy about it, you know?
Yeah. It contributes to like this like more handmade feel that like stuff doesn't have nowadays. Games are such a big business nowadays. Like they just wouldn't let something like this fly now. But yeah, like it works. Like again, would I have let this go through on my own? No, probably not. But I'm glad it did. I'm glad there's like, fine. We'll just use that take. It's totally fine.
Yeah. Symphony of the Night in general kind of has that feel. Like even the artwork of it, like being this kind of like very painstaking, like, you know, like kind of handmade, like pixel art with occasional like 3D stuff. Like it feels kind of weird, especially on the PS1, where like, you know, the common thinking or like the best practices of PS1 would have been to go full polygonal or whatever. And I know there's like, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, but there's like reasons that, you know, they didn't do that. But like to me, it just gives the entire thing like a homemade feel, you know?
Right. Well, also, it's funny, you notice this in later Castlevanias more, but even in this one a little bit, they love reusing old sprites from previous games to the point where, like, even the final, like canonical original timeline Castlevania game, Order of Ecclesia, that it still has sprites from Symphony of the Night in it. Like they still haven't updated those sprites, which again, I'm not complaining that hard because I assume that's how they would keep costs down and how they were able to crank these things out as fast as they were. But it is funny. It is like a funny thing going on. Yeah, we'll probably get into all of that. You saying that this Symphony of the Night is one of like the only major like sprite-based side-scrolling games I can think of on the PS1. Even something like Toomba, like that is still mostly polygonal. It's just side-scrolling. So yeah, it is interesting. When it comes to Marble Gallery, I don't have that much to say. I will shout out that this is by far my wife's favorite soundtrack, especially from when I was replaying the game the past couple weeks and listening to the soundtrack. She has been humming this song like all of the past week, and it's actually kind of driving me crazy. I think it's driving her crazy too. But if The Tragic Prince is the perfect like rock encapsulation of Castlevania music, this is kind of the perfect encapsulation of like the spookier, but like the Scooby-Doo kind of spooky vibe that Castlevania games often have. I don't think I have any marked to be played as break music this episode, but like there are some downright like kind of horrific songs on this soundtrack in the second half of the game, like some real like genuinely creepy stuff. Whereas like this is just kind of like, yeah, zoinks, we're gonna solve a mystery, kind of spooky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. This game, there are certain things in this game that terrified me as a kid. Absolutely terrified me. And this song, like it kind of like reminded me of some of that stuff. Like, you know, the whole thing, like even like the main melody is this sort of weird, like, you know, downbeat minor key thing. And it's a really fun contrast to the song's bass line, which has like a kind of upward momentum to it. So I like the contrast there. They also do a thing that I always really love where there are two competing melodies which come in around the minute mark and they end up crescendoing into this like ghostly screech or something. Which yeah, like it does feel like kind of spooky, but not genuinely scary, just spooky, I guess is the best word for it. And it makes sense. Like I think that there's a lot of songs that feel kind of like appropriate for like the oral aesthetic that they were going for, and this is one of them. And it's funny too, this is like obviously our first episode of October, like spooky month and stuff, so it kind of winds up fitting, you know.
Yeah, that was the idea. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, we should just, if we're gonna do a Castlevania episode, we should do it, let's just slot it into October. Yeah, that was totally the idea, and I'm glad it, you know, this put me in a Castlevania mood. I'm already replaying Aria of Sorrow on my Switch right now. Like, yeah, this will probably be my October, especially I'm not going to have the time to revisit games for our next episode, which we'll get to later. So instead of having to dedicate time to replaying games for the show, I'm just going to keep playing Castlevania stuff for the rest of the month.
Yeah. I was telling you this before we start. It'll be a miracle if I make it to the end of this episode without buying that Dominus collection that just came out.
Well, yeah, you also told me you never played those DS games, and frankly, those are by far my favorite of the Metroidvania Castlevania games. All three of those, I think, are better than like Symphony of the Night and the GBA games. So you'd be in for a treat going for them now.
Yeah. Like I said, I will almost certainly have that purchased by the time we stop recording. So
good. Then my job is done. But yeah, I think that's all the notes I really had. Did you have any other notes on either Marble Gallery or Tragic Prince? Okay.
No, we crushed it. We did it. We did the thing.
Cool. Then let's start talking about Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I do have a lot of notes, but most of it is from an interview that I found, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
This was a 1997 release for the PlayStation 1. A Sega Saturn port was released in 1998. Are you familiar with what they did with the Sega Saturn version of this game at all?
I feel like I've heard this before. I was reading through the notes that you had compiled, but this seems familiar to me, but I was not 100%. I've certainly never played it.
Right. I don't even know if the Saturn version came out outside Japan. I have no idea. I do know it's a pretty rare game from what I understood. So the Sega Saturn version on paper it sounds way better. Like there's new content there. You can play as Maria, so you have a third playable character. There's a whole new area. There's new music. We're gonna end on a Sega Saturn song at the end of the episode, but apparently it performs like trash. And also they couldn't really do transparencies on the Sega Saturn, so like there are a lot of things in this game, and you don't think about this when you're just playing it, but there's a lot of transparencies in Symphony of the Night, including like a cape that Alucard. Yeah, there's the mist. There's a cape that Alucard can wear. The waterfall in this, which I think is very stunning as a PS1 thing. It is just like a solid chunk on the Sega Saturn. Apparently the load times are more frequent and longer. It just sounds like a mess with like a couple cool ideas added in, like playable Maria and stuff. When they remade Rondo of Blood on the PSP, they included Symphony of the Night in there, and they kind of added some stuff to it. They added a new boss fight. They added Maria as a playable character. So they tried to fit in what they could, but like that port also isn't good. It's way better than the Saturn version. But yeah, if you're trying to play Symphony of the Night in 2024, your best bet is probably that, what was it called? The PS4 version's like Requiem something. I don't remember what it's called.
I think that's it. Requiem Collection or whatever.
Yeah. It's like that's probably your best bet. And like, it's not an awful way to play Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night, but it's definitely not as good as playing it on like emulating the PS1 version or whatever. But hey, if you have no other options, it's okay. It's a fine version of the game. So Castlevania Symphony of the Night, it is a sequel. Well, it's a new entry in the Castlevania series, new in 1997. Instead of being like most of the other games in the series up to that point, which were side-scrolling linear action games, stage-based action games, they made a Metroidvania out of it. And if you're not familiar with Metroidvania, it's basically, instead of linear stage progression, you have the whole map open to you. Maybe not right away. You get to get items like you can get double jumps that let you reach new areas and all that kind of stuff. But it basically non-linearity, exploring, retreading old ground, finding new things in old areas you couldn't get to before. That's the general idea of a Metroidvania. It's interesting. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is kind of like a culmination of the entire series up to that point. It ends up being a direct sequel to Rondo of Blood, the direct previous game in the series. Also ends up being a sequel to Castlevania 3, which is Alucard's first appearance.
Right.
Also ends up being a gameplay spiritual successor to Castlevania 2 on the NES, which also dabbled in non-linearity and like RPG aspects. But I never really heard anyone describe the game that way. All I ever heard people talk about was like, yeah, it's the first Metroidvania one, so it's like the first really good one, which I'm with you, Seth. I tend to like the stage-based linear action games more anyway, so I was always kind of offended that people glaze Symphony of the Night so hard, even though it is a pretty good game. That said, before we get like more into a conversational aspect, I wanted to open it up with this part of this interview I found from Shmupulations. If you don't know Shmupulations, they archive and translate like old Japanese interviews about video games. Okay. I think they have like a Patreon or something. Very good resource for stuff like this. If you like reading stuff like Iwata Asks, it turns out the Japanese game industry is actually pretty open and like you can find out tons of cool stuff, but only in Japanese. So Shmupulations, that's kind of what they're doing, is they're just translating these old interviews. I have multiple things I want to cite from these interviews I found, and I will link to this interview in the show notes also. But specifically this quote to start this conversation up from Toshiharu Furukawa, who is a designer on the game, speaking on the origins of Symphony of the Night. At the time, the development section chief ordered us to make the ultimate Dracula game. No one really knew what ultimate meant, but all the developers had talked it over, and the result was Symphony of the Night. So, what do you all think? Ultimate Dracula. Try and picture that.
Hell yeah.
I think that's an incredible quote.
It's pretty good. I mean, he kind of did it. I mean, like that's kind of what they were going for, I guess, right? And I guess it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Ultimate Dracula game.
And for, if you don't know the Japanese series, I think most of the entries are titled. It's not Castlevania over there. It's like Akumojo Dracula. So when he's saying Ultimate Dracula, he means the Ultimate Castlevania game. But it's just funnier to read it out of context and just call it Ultimate Dracula. But yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. That, like, to me, up to this point, even though I didn't play this game when it was brand new, I didn't really play any of the Castlevania games when they were brand new. At least up to this point. Like, this really was the culmination of the whole series. And also, it kind of set in stone, like, the future of the series. Not just from a gameplay perspective, but also from a storytelling perspective. Symphony of the Night kind of lays the groundwork for, like, a lot of the major story beats going forward. And you're talking to a real Castlevania lore nerd over here. So we'll talk about that a little bit, I imagine. I guess, before we get more into the development team, when did you play Symphony of the Night?
I played Symphony of the Night when it was, I don't think new, but I think not long after it came out. So my friend Justin, who I've talked about even just on this episode, he had a PlayStation, and so all of my PlayStation experiences came from just him. Like, I would go to his house, we'd play stuff like whatever, Final Fantasy, Dino Crisis, stuff like this. He would get like I would have the Nintendo stuff and he would have the not Nintendo stuff. The first PlayStation thing that I owned for myself was PS2. And even that I only got because my dad got it from an army buddy that was PCSing, which I think I've also mentioned on the show multiple times. So my tether into PlayStation was like tangential. And I remember he got this, and I was a huge fan of the NES Castlevania games that I played on my uncle's NES. Castlevania 3 in particular, I love that game.
Yeah, it's one of the best games ever made, hands down.
Yeah, like I love that game, and I loved it when I was a kid. It was so hard. Like that was the first time I remember, like, as a kid, I was playing like hard games. I was playing Super Mario Brothers 3 and and even like stuff like Zelda 2 and stuff like this. But like Castlevania, I was like that to me was the way that people felt about like Demon Souls when it first came out. Like, that's how I felt about Castlevania 3 as a kid. Like, this was the hard game that I just wanted to like conquer, especially like, growing up in like the 90s, like, quote unquote beating the game, was like a whole thing. Like, I felt like it was a challenge that I needed to overcome. And so like I remember like when we finished Castlevania 3, like, that's a huge like milestone memory in my life is finishing that game with my uncle. Like, it was a very celebratory thing, and I hold that game in very, very high regard. And I really like the first and second game too, especially in hindsight too. There was like kind of a common theme of like second entries of NES games being like the weird ones,
right?
Between Mario 2, Zelda 2, and Castlevania 2 being the sort of like dark horses of their NES trilogies or whatever. But I've always really liked the NES Castlevania games, and I say all of that to set up the fact that like when we started playing Symphony of the Night, I didn't even know for a while that it was Castlevania at all. I remember, like, he had it and he was playing it, and I came over and he had already gone like past the intro and everything. He's already like playing his Alucard and everything. And Alucard obviously in the Symphony of the Night does not look the way he does in the NES Castlevania game, right?
In the NES Castlevania 3, he just looks like Bela Lugosi. Like, he just he just looks like an old vampire dude. Like, he's got the black hair and stuff. Like, yeah. And then now here he's just like sexy little femboy, long silver hair Alucard. Yeah,
we'll talk about that. But I remember like I remember like seeing him playing it, and it wasn't until way later like I would watch him play it, and I was like, well, this looks cool, and I wasn't picking up on the fact that this was a Castlevania game at all, and I'm like, well, what is this? And he handed me like the like the case with like the cover art and everything. It was like, oh, like, what? Like, I'm probably like 10 or something. I'm like, this is Castlevania. Like, this is crazy.
You don't even have a whip in this game. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it just, nothing there was at no point watching it did I feel like it was Castlevania. Now, I did not have the experience that a lot of people it always drives me crazy when people talk about when they were kids, like they had these thoughts like, this is a paradigm shift in video game. Like, no, I was like 10, dude. Like, but to me, I definitely had that moment of like, oh, like this is not what I think of when I think of Castlevania. Like I had literally no idea. And I thought it was so cool. Like the game is it's still so cool, so like stylish, so moody, so like I was very taken by just the way it looks, like and it's still I still love the way the game looks, like the pixel art, the sprite work, the animation, like and yeah, like I fell in love with Alucard, the character, almost literally. And again, we can get into that a little bit later if you want, but that was that game was a big deal for us when it came out. And I remember the experience of like playing through that game with him, and it felt like big and like epic. Like it felt like a lot of games on PS1 did. Like it felt like a big deal. And I never even considered like the overarching lore and the connection between Castlevania games up until that point. And I didn't even know until way later that the game literally picks up where Rondo of Blood leaves off. Like the game literally opens
right,
like with the ending of Rondo of Blood, essentially. And I didn't know that until way later, because obviously I'd never played that either. So there was all this, like the layers of Symphony of the Night have peeled back for me like over the years, ever since I was a kid.
Right. No, I'm with you. Like, I must have experienced Castlevania in some way prior to Symphony of the Night, but this is like the first major Castlevania game that I experienced. So like, I didn't have that context. Also, even if you have some context, the game is straight up like either down to mistranslations or just goofy localization choices. Like when you start off the game as the intro playing as Richter, it even says like previously on Castlevania Bloodlines. It's like, no, Castlevania Bloodlines is the Sega Genesis game that has nothing to do with this game. It takes place like 150 years in the future, but that was like the last localized Castlevania game outside Japan. So like that, they're just like, yeah, previously on Castlevania Bloodlines, when this happened in Rondo of Blood, which didn't get localized till years and years and years later. We will talk about that intro. I think it's maybe the coolest intro of like any game ever.
It might be, dude.
Like,
yeah.
Why don't more games do that? I know Wonder Boy 3 also starts off the same, like starting at the end of the previous game, but it's something real special. I mean, yeah, this game is very special. We'll save most of that till the next section when we talk about the game more in depth. But I will just say, when it comes to mood, despite what I just said, that like all three of the DS Castlevania games, I like them more than Symphony of the Night. That is true, but in terms of like mood, I don't think like any other Castlevania game comes close, previously or after this game, to Symphony of the Night. Like the mood is exquisite. It is like the perfect Halloween game, but you can play it any time of year and it's still like, it gives you the perfect vibes. But again, we'll talk about that more when we talk about like our actual experiences with it. But for right now, we're going to go back and talk a little bit about the development staff. This was directed by both Toru Hagihara and Koji Igarashi. Igarashi went on to become like the steward of the franchise after this. I always found it interesting. He was listed as the assistant director, but from reading the Shmupulations interview, it actually sounds like the game was literally divided into two halves with two directors. Higurashi,
which makes sense.
Or Hagihara did the normal, the first castle, and Igarashi did the inverted castle, is what it sounds like. And yeah, it does make sense, both from a workflow perspective, but also from like a design perspective. You know, we'll talk about the inverted castle, but like, suffice it to say, when you quote unquote beat the game the first time, you're probably not going to have found the secrets that let you get into the second real half of the game, which is the inverted castle. So when we say inverted castle, you literally are on the ceiling at that point. Navigation is kind of a lot more annoying in the inverted castle, but like, it's not just reusing assets. It is reusing the geometry, but it's not reusing like assets per se. Like this is a Metroidvania, but the first half is a lot more linear and kind of simple, and like it is a little bit more guided. You know, it's it's kind of a little bit obtuse, but not too bad. Whereas in the Inverted Castle, it is a completely free-form open. You can basically go wherever you want because you already have all the movement power-ups that you need. So on this most recent playthrough, I was getting into some real trouble when I first got to the Inverted Castle. I was like, oh, I wanted to go to the library and get the Chrysogrim, and I went the complete opposite way, and now I'm kind of screwed. It was a struggle for a little bit. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting because I feel like Iga kind of became the steward, and then I think when the series started floundering a bit, I remember seeing people online being like, well, Igarashi isn't actually the director of Symphony of the Night. That's why these new games aren't as good. No, that's not true at all. Like, for one, again, I like most of the newer Castlevania games more than this anyway, but I also don't like the idea of like downplaying Igarashi's involvement when it sounds like he was very, very heavily involved with this game from the get-go. I will note that Hagihara, his most notable work prior to this seems to be Castlevania Rondo of Blood, which he also directed, and again, is the direct storyline predecessor to Symphony of the Night. Seth, do you have much experience with Rondo of Blood?
No, I had not played it at all until they put out that Requiem collection, and even then I didn't go back and play it. I just wanted to play Symphony of the Night again. And I think they did when Dracula X Chronicles came out. I think they like made you play Rondo of Blood first.
I think
like,
you had to find like an item in the remade Rondo of Blood to unlock Symphony of the Night. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I think I've played it a little bit just by way of that, but I've never actually played through the full thing, despite having the opportunity to multiple times.
So I will say, you know, this game, Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night, for different reasons, both get extremely glazed when in just the video gaming community. That said, if I'm being honest, I think Rondo of Blood is more worthy of the glazing than Symphony of the Night. It is kind of like this weird middle ground between linear action Castlevania and the Metroidvania Castlevania. Like they are linear action stages, but a lot of the stages have multiple exits, like secret exits, and like you have to find keys and stuff to get to them. The soundtrack is out of this world bonkers good. Maybe my favorite version of Bloody Tears in the whole. In fact, no, it is my favorite version of Bloody Tears, at least in the canonical Castlevania series. It is fantastic. I would highly recommend when you get the chance, like when you're in the mood to like get your ass beat by like a hard linear Castlevania game, check out Rondo of Blood if it's basically new to you, because it is really, really good. Also, yeah, you kind of get to. It's funny because like the tone of these games are very different, because like Rondo of Blood is very much like just anime shonen, like, yep, Richter's just gonna go rescue his kidnapped girlfriend from Dracula kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then Symphony of the Night, it gets way more existential and stuff, and like you see it in the art and whatever, but they really do work well as companion pieces, especially from a gameplay perspective, because like it really is bridging the gap between Castlevania 3 and even 4 a little bit, and then Symphony of the Night. Like, you see the foundation actually was laid here for Symphony of the Night, even regardless of Castlevania 2. So it's cool that they took it a step further in Symphony of the Night. I'll also note that Igarashi, at the time, was kind of like the Konami golden child. A lot of Americans probably wouldn't know this, but he had just gotten off of working on Tokimeki Memorial as a writer. I think he was like the main writer of Tokimeki Memorial, which was an absolutely huge hit at the time. This is kind of like, I don't necessarily know that this is the first ever dating simulator video game, but it is like the one that really blew up, and it was a huge deal. It was huge at the time.
Yeah. I mean, everything I know about Tokimeki Memorial came from Action Button.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like, I've always been fascinated by that. I've always been I mean, it makes sense that would do like super well in Japan, but yeah, I mean, Igarashi being involved with that, it kind of makes sense that like you probably would become like a bit of a rock star in the Japanese game dev scene if you worked on something like that, right?
Even though it was like a cute dating simulator where you're playing like a high schooler, like, all right, then now I'm off to go revolutionize an entire genre of video game with Symphony of the Night. You know, like that's kind of crazy and also kind of cool. But it's also pretty sad seeing what happened to him later and how Konami treated him. Not just him, it was like everyone at Konami was kind of treated poorly. But yeah, I will note real quick, they are remaking Tokameki Memorial on Switch, but it is definitely not coming out outside of Japan, which sucks.
Probably not. Yeah.
That said, I think I've mentioned Game Center CX on the show before. If people aren't familiar, Game Center CX stars Arino. It's a Japanese comedian, and he plays games, generally like harder games. They're not all the time. It's, it predates like our popular conception of Let's Plays and stuff. Like, this is like early 2000s the show started airing. So it's just a Japanese comedian being filmed playing games, and he's bad at most of the games is kind of the conceit, but he does beat a lot of them. That said, one of the earliest episodes was him playing Tokameki Memorial. It was right after he got married in real life, and the staff was asking him questions and telling him to give dating advice and stuff while he played this dating simulator. It is one of the funniest things I've ever watched. It sucks because Game Center CX isn't as accessible nowadays. It used to be you could just go on YouTube and watch the whole series with fan subs. I don't think that's the case anymore, unfortunately. But if you want to track down something cool about Tokameki Memorial that isn't the action button review, check out Game Center CX, and then also just fall down into a Game Center CX rabbit hole, because that show is incredible too. But yeah, like I said before, Igarashi kind of became the steward of the Castlevania series. I think he basically was heavily like directing or executive producing most of the entries after Symphony of the Night, besides, I think, Circle of the Moon. I think he didn't have anything to do with that, and he doesn't consider it canon. He's one of those dudes that, like, unless I worked on it, I don't consider it canon kind of thing.
Sure.
But that said, he truly, really, you can tell that this dude loved Castlevania. Again, I'm going to bring up more stuff from the interviews and stuff later, but like, he loved the lore of this game. He loved writing the story of this game. A big Castlevania nerd want is a game set in 1999 where Dracula is finally killed for real by Julius Belmont. And he talks about that in interviews for this game, that he's like, yeah, I really want to do a game set in 1999 with like the Nostradamus prediction and all this stuff. I'm like, okay. As a Castlevania dork, I didn't know that he genuinely was like thinking this far ahead of like where he wanted the series to go. Like I said, Igarashi ended up being a victim of Konami just kind of wanting to get out of the video game business for a while.
Just all pachinko, baby.
Yeah, I mean, they're coming back now. That Silent Hill 2 remake is about out. But yeah, for a good like decade there, they kind of just didn't want to have anything to do with video games, it seems like. Igarashi was basically locked away in a janitor's closet for a few years after Castlevania Judgment on Wii came out. If you're not familiar, that is the 3D arena fighter with art by the Death Note manga artist.
And it looks like it.
Yep, you could tell. Not a big fan, especially compared to the Symphony of the Night art style and stuff. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
So beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I never played it. Did you play Castlevania Judgment? I'm guessing no.
No, I never. I saw it all the time when I worked at GameStop, and I just thought even the cover art, like I just thought it looked ugly. I just wasn't. Yeah, wasn't interested.
Yeah, I remember there were pictures of like E3 2008 or 2009 that like Igarashi was actually like manning the Konami booth, and like no one was coming to the Konami booth because all they had was Castlevania Judgment, and it was very sad. Even back then it made me sad because, like, again, you could tell that Igarashi really genuinely cares about Castlevania, so to see him kind of be treated like that, and it sounded like he didn't want to do the game, but he was kind of, hey, we need to make a Wii game, get something going, and then he was like, oh yeah, Wii remote, motion controls, whips, okay, cool, let's do it.
Take what you can get at that point. Well, we should also say, I mean, Igarashi, we've talked about like fashion and the way that developers have carried themselves and stuff like that. Igarashi basically is just a Castlevania character. Like, like the dude is known for his signature, like, cowboy hat, and and he like carries like a whip with him, and like you often see him like swilling like red wine. Like he basically is like he basically is like Dracula or something in Castlevania, just personified. And I don't know, like I've always kind of found that very charming about him. Like he kind of leans into that whole persona, and so you see him like, pictures of him at E3 manning booths or whatever, and he's just there with his hat and his whip, and and
Yeah. He seems like a genuine dude, and I appreciate that. Honestly, I think besides Sakurai, I think he's probably the developer I would like most want to like meet and talk to at some point in my life. I will note, he eventually left Konami. This story has a happy ending. He did do a Kickstarter campaign for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which was billed as a direct successor to Symphony of the Night. This doesn't need to turn into a Bloodstained podcast, but I will say, yes, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is like the most Symphony of the Night-esque game that has ever existed. It out Symphony of the Night. I can't believe I'm saying Symphony of the Night this many times. Yeah, I thought they killed it with Bloodstained. Did you play Ritual of the Night?
Yeah, I liked it too. I didn't latch myself on to like the characters or like the the world or the enemies or anything as much, but like that all still tracked and a lot. I think they even got like the composer back.
I think so.
From Symphony of the Night to do the music. So like it definitely is like it knew what it was trying to do. And I mean, compared to like, another spiritual successor thing, compared to like a Mighty Number 9, right? This is like you're in the Taj Mahal with Bloodstain.
Right.
And I also really liked is it Curse of the Moon, the Castlevania 3 like send up. I thought that was I liked that even more than Ritual of the Night.
Yeah, Curse of the Moon 1 and 2 are both fantastic. And yeah, those are more directly NES, Castlevania 3 specifically inspired. Yeah, I do like Ritual of the Night a lot. But yeah, the best thing to come out of Bloodstained Kickstarter was definitely the Circle of the Moon games. Fantastic. They were
great.
Games.
Yeah, I want to say real quick too. I was meaning to bring this up earlier, but you mentioning just now how you can't believe how much you're saying Symphony of the Night. There was a guy when I worked at GameStop who would come in, I don't know, every few months or so, and you would recognize him when he would come in because of a few things. First of all, the smell. He was very stinky.
Okay. Good start.
He very clearly like did not take regular showers. He would always come in with some kind of like video game, like, the kind of stuff you see at Target where it's like a NES controller and it says like represent on it or whatever. And like
old
it
school,
would be kicking it old school with like an Atari 2600 controller. And it would be like tucked into his like cargo shorts, and he would come in and he would walk in with like a cane. And anyway, I'm not trying to make fun of the guy or whatever, but like it was all, he was the kind of guy who'd linger a lot. He would like talk your ear off. He was a massive, massive, massive Symphony of the Night fan. He found a way to talk about it every single time he stopped in to the store. Found a way to bring it up both to me and to other customers. He loved it. And he would always, I never heard him say the words Symphony of the Night. He would always say SotN.
Oh, dude, I hate when people say SotN.
It was like nails on a chalkboard, dude. I hated it so much. And so we internally at GameStop, we referred to him as the SotN Guy.
That seems like a pretty good way of referring to it.
So the SotN Guy would come in, just again reek, and we would like have to spray Lysol like after he left. He stunk so bad, and he would just hang out and like lean against the counter. He was way into like Skylanders, and just like he would find a way to bring up SotN in like every conversation. And so anyway, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned this guy and immortalized him on Bit Harmony.
Right.
For this episode.
Where else will he be immortalized but here?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it sounds like a man after my own heart. Stinky and just talks about Castlevania.
I wish
all the
him
time.
well. I hope he's doing well. He was kind of older, like even back then, so he's got to be in his like late 50s at this point. But that dude loved SotN.
If he still loves it as much as he did back then, maybe he'll even find this podcast episode. Who knows?
Maybe. Who knows? I never knew his name or anything like that, but I imagine
just
if
SotN.
but I imagine if you stumble onto this podcast, you probably know who you are.
I hope so, but maybe not. Maybe not. So next we got the game was composed by Michiru Yamane, which we mentioned quite a while ago. This section has taken us quite a while to get through, but that's fine. A note that I thought was very cute was she also did all the sound effects because they were short of staff, which is very interesting because, again, it lends to that homemade feel because you can tell like all the voice acting and stuff. It's very, very like we don't know what we're doing, but we're having fun while we're doing it, kind of thing. And yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. Symphony of the Night, or SotN, I guess is where now I'm going to start calling it. Was this was considered her breakout hit at the time. Prior to this, she had most notably worked on Castlevania Bloodlines, which, as mentioned, is the Sega Genesis exclusive Castlevania game. Did you ever play Castlevania Bloodlines?
No, never played it.
Okay. Have you ever played Castlevania 4 on Super Nintendo?
No.
Wait, really?
No, yeah. Quick rundown. I've played the 3 NES Castlevania games, and love them. Played SotN, of course. I, after that, and I was telling you this a little bit like before we started recording, but for whatever reason, I kind of like hard killed my interest in Castlevania after Symphony of the Night for no real reason. I have no like quantifier for that. But you know, like I played the GBA games, and like after that in Symphony of the Night, like my history with Castlevania essentially goes blank. I played the what did they call them? The remakes of the Game Boy game.
The Adventure Rebirth. Yeah,
Rebirth is what. Yeah, they did a few of those like Konami like Rebirth games that M2 made, and I liked those, and I enjoyed that game actually. But I wouldn't come back to Castlevania until I played Lords of Shadow on Xbox 360. And like it's just kind of, I don't know, like it's a pretty big like, I guess, blank spot on my like gamer card or whatever. Like there are a lot of Castlevania games that I would really like to go back to, and like I said, I've never played any of the DS games, so I would love to experience those. There are a lot of Castlevania games I haven't played.
Yeah, I'll just say Castlevania 4, or Super Castlevania 4, as it was called. I think that is like maybe the most overrated Castlevania game, even considering like SotN. God, now I'm going to start non-ironically saying SotN. But it's still good. Like the problem with Castlevania 4 is that it's like too easy, and also Simon's whip like reaches across like the whole damn screen. So like there's no like the cool thing about the NES Castlevania games, and here I'm about to go on a tangent, but the reason why Castlevania 1 and 3 are like two of the best action games ever made still to this day is how it forces you to reckon with spacing and the fact that like your whip can like only go in one direction and it's slow and there's a wind up and stuff. So in that way, it's a lot like modern Souls games. Like it really, you have to consider your positioning like at all times. Obviously, you get sub weapons, and like in 3, you have other characters and stuff. And like, you know, Grant Dynasty is super OP. It's fine. But at the core, like it is all about you and your whip and how your whip winds up, and it's the weird length of it, and how you have to commit to your jumps. Like that's the core of the NES Castlevania experience to me. Castlevania 4 kind of does away with all of that. You can maneuver in midair after you jump. So if you make a dumb jump, you can still back out of it. Your whip is just super duper long. You can also hold the whip button, and then you can kind of aim it. Like you can just, it's called like the limp whip, because it's just like your whip just dangles in front of you, but you can like press up on the D-pad and it goes like, it snaps upward kind of thing. I still like it. And I will say, I think Castlevania 4 might have the most interesting soundtrack in the whole series. And I kind of considered doing that episode here instead of Symphony of the Night, but ultimately went with this because I just knew we both had more experience with it. Also, there's more to say about this game in general. All that said, I think at some point you should play Castlevania 4. I mean, you could beat it in like an afternoon. It's also way easier than the NES Castlevania games. It's very, very friendly in that way. The whole reason I brought all this up was Castlevania Bloodlines. I think Bloodlines is maybe the most underrated Castlevania game. Okay. And I quite like it a bit. I like it a lot more than Castlevania 4 besides the soundtrack. The soundtrack is still very good, but like Castlevania 4 soundtrack is on another level. If you ever want to hear like pan flutes blasting out of your Super Nintendo while you fight dragons and stuff, then boy, you should get in on Castlevania 4.
I've had plenty of opportunity to play it. Like it was on the SNES Classic. I think it's part of that anniversary collection as well. Like I have it. Like I can play it. I just never have. I'll have to go back to it. That sounds great.
Bloodlines is also on the collection. Also, Bloodlines is on the Sega Genesis NSO app. So that's kind of even more approachable because you can get like the rewind feature in, and Bloodlines is pretty hard. Bloodlines does not mince words the way Castlevania 4 does. But anyway, yeah, the whole reason we got on that tangent was because Michiru Yamane composed for Bloodlines prior to Symphony of the Night. She also composed for games like Goemon, Rocket Knight, and Twinbee. This is also a reminder while we're talking about Switch NSO stuff that Poppin' Twinbee on the Super Nintendo NSO app is one of the best shmups of all time, and I think no one has ever played it.
Yeah,
and it's fantastic. It's one of the best games on the Super Nintendo app. Like, hey, you've played Donkey Kong Country a million times. You played Mario World a billion times. Just fire up Poppin' Twinbee. I promise you're going to have a really good time.
The art of that game is so good. Not to get on a tangent, but yeah.
Hey, we can do a Poppin' Twinbee little mini episode right now. Yeah, and then after that, Yamane became kind of the main series composer. She didn't compose every single Castlevania game after Symphony of the Night, but she became the go-to. I don't think she composed for the first 2 GBA games, but then she did Aria of Sorrow and the other 3DS games. When I was looking through her Wikipedia and interviews with her, she said her favorite scores that she ever worked on were Aria of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia. She said that, or rather, Portrait of Ruin being one of her favorites, I thought was pretty interesting because there's a lot of Castlevania Bloodlines music in there because Bloodlines takes place during like World War One, and then I think Portrait of Ruin takes place like between World War One and Two, or maybe even during World War Two. So similar time periods. Yeah. So like they do find ways to like. There's a good reason why they bring back music from Bloodlines, but I just thought it was cute that she cites that as one of her favorites because I feel like no one talks about Portrait of Ruin. It's kind of, I feel like people consider that like the worst of all 6 of the GBA DS era games. Whereas like, to me, it's still pretty up there. I haven't replayed it in a long time, but it's very good. I'll also note that she worked on the Portrait of Ruin soundtrack with Yuzo Koshiro, who again is maybe my favorite video game composer. And there is a Simon Belmont theme remix in that game that is like just pure funk. And that was apparently composed by Yuzo Koshiro. So that's really, really cool. Also, Twilight Stigmata from Order of Ecclesia is one of my favorite Castlevania songs, period. So I get why she's citing Portrait of Ruin and Ecclesia as some of her favorites of all time. Last major person to note, God, this section has been incredibly long, is Ayami Kojima. She was the illustrator. This is the first game in the series to bring her in as the illustrator. Her art kind of just, for one, it's incredible. It's like maybe my favorite video game art of all time.
I think so. I'm right there with you. I think so. I think her art is so singular. Like you can tell when something is hers. Yeah.
Right. It was interesting reading the interviews where they talked about how they came to hire her. They just said that, we just went into like bookstores as a team and we just poured over books until we found who we thought had like the coolest art, and then we contacted her and hired her. It became so synonymous with the Castlevania series that like the entries where they didn't use her art it feels weird. For instance, Aria of Sorrow on GBA, that is using her art, and then the immediate next game, which is a direct sequel using the same characters, Dawn of Sorrow, does not use her art. It's going for like a way more generic like anime look to it, and I don't think it looks bad by any means, but because you're directly comparing it to her art in the previous game, it's just like, what is wrong with this? Like, why did you I don't know if it was like a budget thing or she didn't have the time thing, but it's just like, why did y'all do this?
So 2 things I want to point out about this in particular. So first, I mean, the composer of the game and the artist of the game are both women, which I think for this time is pretty significant. Like, like video game development in particular, and even like in Japanese, video game development, pretty rare for women to be in like major roles. And for like the composer and the like illustrator of the game to both be women, I think rules. And her Ayami Kojima's like artwork with this game and the way that she designed Alucard in the game, like this was, and again, I warned y'all that I'm gonna get weird about Alucard in this episode. This was a weird moment for me because when I saw my friend Justin playing the game, I thought Alucard was a girl.
Right.
And
He's got very long flowing hair. The sprite is very lovingly animated. Yeah.
right, I thought he was a girl, and then even looking at the cover art of the game, I thought he was a girl.
Mhm.
And like I remember telling him like, "Oh man, like she is so pretty. Like I think she's so pretty." And he's like, "Oh no, that's a guy." And I remember like I had this moment of like, well, like so what?
Right.
You know? And he's like, well, that's gay. Like you can't like him. It's like it's gay to like he's a guy. You can't think the guy is pretty. I'm like, but I do think the guy is pretty. And like I remember like having that, you know, like that sort of like moment with him. Like it was definitely a little bit of like conflict because, you know, in the like late 90s or whatever when we're playing this, I'm starting to like, you know, I'm probably like 11, like I'm kind of like starting to go through puberty and stuff like this. And I definitely had like that moment with him of like, oh, like, are you gay? And like, should I be like worried to be around you or whatever, you know, like stuff like that. And I don't identify as gay. But like, I definitely like, I think that Alucard in Symphony of the Night, who is still like my number one, you know, people talk about husbandos or whatever. Like Alucard is my number one. Like there's no, it's not even close. And I just like, I had a crush on him and I felt kind of ashamed. Like I never wanted to talk about it again, you know, but like throughout the years, like I feel an attachment to that character, and he's sort of, as I've become more comfortable in my own sexuality or whatever, as I've gotten older, you know, I felt a little bit more comfortable to recognize like that I have like a type when it comes to men or whatever. And it is that Bishonen, you know, sort of like, you know, Miles Edgeworth is another one for me. I love him and stuff. But Alucard was the thing that kind of like opened up in the sort of early days of my puberty. Alucard sort of like opened up the idea to me that, oh, like I kind of like boys too, a little bit sometimes. And yeah, it was a weird experience for me. I felt like I always feel weird identifying with like the queer community or anything, because like I'm married to a woman and I'm kind of like, you know, cis white male or whatever, but I'm definitely not like straight as an arrow, you know what I mean? And like it always, like Alucard was like the, you know, the first character that made me kind of like realize that within myself, and I kind of kept it bottled up until really just within the past 10 years. You know, and like I would always see a character like James from Pokemon, you know, I had a crush on him a little bit, you know, and just, you know, there's stuff like that's kind of like, you know, crept up, you know, throughout the years, and Alucard kind of broke that for me. And now I just lean full tilt into it. My wallpaper on my phone is Alucard. You know, like my wife laughs at me whenever I pick up my phone and I'm like, oh, here's my husband, you know. And
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love Alucard. He's one of my favorite video game characters.
Yeah, and like I didn't have a crush on him. I think I was, if I'm honest, I didn't really start like having like serious crushes until like later, like teenage years anyway. So like, yeah, it probably didn't even really occur to me to have a crush on Alucard anyway. But like, yeah, for one, he is drawn very, very feminine and very, very like,
yeah.
Like that's just like all the Castlevania protagonists drawn by Kojima, like Soma in Aria of Sorrow is drawn very, very feminine. Like, and so I it totally makes sense to me. I think that's interesting. I think having like some, I don't want to say awakening, but having that realization dawn on you while you're playing a video game with like your best friend at the time, like that sounds like it sucks. I wouldn't want to go through.
Like it felt weird. I felt like I've never really felt like oppressed or whatever in my life. But that was definitely a moment of like, oh, like I guess it's not okay to talk about this, you know.
Right.
Like it felt kind of strange. Yeah, I definitely and I never talked with him about that again. And ironically, I came to find out later that he had, you know, some of those kind of repressed feelings himself, and you know, and I think that was a part of it also. And the way our friendship kind of dissolved, some of that came to light, and
Mm-hmm.
anyway, that's a long-winded way of me saying that. Yeah, I don't know if I would consider it. I consider myself these days on like the asexual spectrum. Demisexual is kind of what I identify with the most. But like I also don't have like a preference necessarily. Like if I think a boy is pretty, if I think Alucard's pretty, and and I kind of I'm attracted to him, sorry. And
Sure.
it was just one of those things like in the 90s, like it wasn't okay to talk about that with your other friends who were boys. And
Right.
it seemed like the sort of thing like even I'm blanking on his name, the pilot of Death Scythe in Gundam. Why am I blanking? Is it Maxwell something? I always liked him too. Like he was another one that I had a crush on, but like the way that I would kind of like navigate this was I would say like, oh, like he's my favorite character. I just think he's really cool. But really, I was like attracted to them.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, hey, that's a good mask for it if you had to wear a mask, because I do think Alucard is like maybe the coolest video game character.
Yeah, he rules. Yeah.
Like he just rules, man. Like I made him in Elden Ring. Yeah, you even saw me streaming like my Alucard character in Elden Ring. I got him looking pretty much exactly like Alucard. I had him with a giant rapier and like a thrusting rapier move and stuff. It was that's still like my favorite character to play in Elden Ring. Like Alucard just rules. Hey, another reason for you to pick up Dominus Collection. You can unlock Julius mode in Dawn of Sorrow, and then it becomes like a Castlevania 3 thing where you switch between Julius Belmont, Yoko Belnades, and Alucard. And like Alucard plays basically exactly how he does in Symphony of the Night. That's another reason why Dawn of Sorrow is my favorite Metroidvania entry. It's fantastic. Real quick before we go on a much needed break, I think. Symphony of the Night initially did not sell very well. It only later went on to become a bigger cult hit. That is largely due to the renown it received from critics at the time. It was and is frequently cited as one of the best games ever made, even to this day. Specifically, the reason this game came on my radar as a kid was for EGM's 150th issue. They did 100 best games of all time feature, and this was listed. I looked this up. Hey, the other day I might have read the majority of EGM's 150th issue on my wife's computer, but this was their number 4 game of all time back in 2001. It was right above Mario 64 at number 5, and then Link to the Past, Tetris, and Super Metroid were the only games above it. What do you make of that list as like again, this list is over 20 years old at this point, but what do you make of that list nowadays?
I mean, this is a very like gamer brain pilled list, right? Like this is a very like, I think if you polled like most, gamers who are like over the age of 30, they'd probably make a list kind of like this.
Right.
Right. So, that's fine. I get it. In 2001, like, yeah, I get it. It's funny. Like 2001, these games were probably still somewhat new, back then. So
to put it into perspective, there were only like 4 PlayStation 2 games on this list at the time, because PlayStation 2 had only been out for like a year, and they were like NCAA whatever games. It wasn't even like,
that's wild,
right?
Yeah.
It was a wild list to look back at. It's also interesting. There's like no Earthbound. I think they had the Zelda Oracle games above Link's Awakening, which is kind of wild to me. But yeah, anyway, that was just like a fun little. I read an early 2000s video game magazine the other day for the first time in a long time. I will say that 150th issue of EGM, that was like my Bible as a kid. Like I made it like my life's goal to play as many of those top 100 games of all time back then, and I have still not played all of them. But yeah, the majority of them are still pretty good, I would say. Also, don't read early 2000s video game magazines unless you want to see like blatant sexism in like every single ad, because it's...
Oh, I'm sure. Racism against Japanese culture. Yeah.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty wild what people were getting away with back then. Real quick, then, the last note I had here in this section was that people weren't even like excited about this game when it was coming out, or at least most people weren't. I remember reading, I don't know if it was like Game Pro or something, but like there's this preview of Symphony of the Night, and they're like, I don't know why anyone would care about this like sprite-based garbage when Castlevania 64 is coming out in a couple months on the N64. It's just like, it's very funny how poorly that aged and in so quick a time too, because like,
Right.
I feel like even at the time most people didn't like Castlevania 64. I'll just quickly shout out, I've never played it, but my wife loves it. I think that's maybe the only
Okay.
Castlevania game she's ever played. I don't think she's played it in the last 20 years, so who knows if it's actually good or not, but hey, she likes it.
Nice. I've never played it. The only experience I have with it is I've seen GDQ runs of it. But that's about it. Yeah, it's funny, man. Like, I mean, you kind of see back then in like the late 90s, like, what is this sprite-based stuff? Am I still playing on the Super Nintendo? You know?
Right.
So, yeah, I get it. But I mean, hey, the proof is in the pudding, dude. Like those games, you know, aged like milk, and Symphony of the Night still looks beautiful.
Genuinely, the sprite work is like still pretty awesome in this game. As someone that just played through the whole thing a few days ago, it's genuinely still really good looking. That being said, that might be our longest like individual section without a music break of this show ever. So
Probably.
let's go on a music break real quick. We got Rainbow Cemetery and Crystal Teardrops as our music break, and then we'll be back to talk about more gameplay specific stuff with Symphony of the Night. was Rainbow Cemetery and Crystal Teardrops from Castlevania Symphony of the Night. What do you think about Rainbow Cemetery? This is the song that I had spaced for a dedicated break, the one that I cared about the least. I just kind of, I wanted to get, it's not that I don't like it or anything, but I don't know, I just wanted to still get a little more of the traditional gothic horror vibe as opposed to the other stuff that we're playing. So that's kind of how this got slotted in here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my first note here is like almost trippy, like Fly Like an Eagle, Steve Miller Band coded.
Yeah.
Like it's got a little bit of that, like the synth, that arpeggiated like synth lead, which is very Castlevania. Like that is the Castlevania signature for me, is just arpeggiated leads. And it's very like reverberated in this. It's very like almost psychedelic feeling. There's a shift around the 125 mark where it gets like kind of scary, like the melody changes for a bit like kind of has like that horror vibe to it. I don't know. I like this song a lot.
Yeah, to be clear, it's not that I don't like the song. It just isn't one that like sticks out in my memory as much as most of the other ones. Right. But yeah, that transition around like 125 or whatever, that was specifically what, like, I'm like, okay, I think we should put this in here. Though, yes, the beginning of the song is like maybe the most like extra song that we've had on this entire show so far, and in the like over 400 songs that we've covered on this show at this point.
It's been over 400 songs. Holy crap.
I mean, we don't talk about every single one of them, that's including background songs and stuff. But yeah, I think after this episode, we'll be in the 400s.
Jeez.
It is maybe the most extra song that we've had on the show with that opening. Like, I don't know, the fact that like it starts with like bell chimes and wind sounds, and then it transitions to space lasers and bongo drums is like, I don't know. Again, like, why does it sound like this down here? Is the perfect phrase for this.
That'll be stuck with you forever now. Yeah. Just like it's stuck with me. I'm happy to pass it along to you and our listeners.
But yeah, it's another really good one. Again, this whole soundtrack is great. It all is so mid 90s, like CD-ROM sounding stuff. Originally, before like I kind of mapped out the rest of the year, at least a rough draft, we have, we can change things around if we want to, but before I landed on Symphony of the Night, I was kind of trying to think of how to pitch an episode where we just talk about like red band audio songs from like the Sega CD and the PlayStation 1 and stuff. But then the problem is like so many incredible songs are from like Symphony of the Night, Rondo of Blood, Sonic R. It's just like, why don't we just do full episodes on all those things? We don't need to do like but at the same time, it would be kind of cool to have like a red band audio episode of some sort. So it's still
idea.
Yeah, it's still in the back of my mind, but it needs a little tweaking or something. When it comes to Crystal Teardrops, I go back and forth all the time on if this or Wandering Ghosts is my favorite on the soundtrack. Wandering Ghosts will play on the next break. Like, I love how insane Wandering Ghosts is, and again, we'll get to it, but like, I think Crystal Teardrops is my favorite. I just tend to like the more moody, ambient, like ephemeral stuff in games like this more. Again, we talked about the Weather Channel-esque soundscape of some of these songs, and looking for comments, this is where I started seeing a lot of people making jokes about like local 8s, like this is like your weather report for Dracula's Castle kind of stuff going on. And again, another perfect why does it sound like this down here, because this is like a secret underwater curse cavern that leads to hell, basically, if you can find the secret entrance underneath Dracula's castle, but it sounds beautiful and everything is just chill down here. I don't know, it's great.
Yeah, this is my favorite track on the entire OST as well. Just like the bass is so good, like so funky. I love the way the drums are almost like muted, in the background. It reminds me, it's pretty like Akira Yamaoka, like Silent Hill coded to me, this song. I don't know, like I love this one. This is the standout one for me for sure. Like, I don't know, like we talked about it a little bit, but the whole why does it sound like this down here aspect of Symphony of the Night is one of the things I love about the game soundtrack. I don't think that maybe you know, again, I think in many ways, like, I prefer the kind of more like looping, melody heavy NES soundtracks. But like in terms of like the like interest, like the actual like the things that make my ears perk up at, you know, 35 and somebody appreciating music, like, yeah, it's definitely stuff like this, like, you know, and what I mean, there's an argument to be made about things not matching tonally with like their area in the game or whatever, but you know, I really love that. I love it when there's like stuff that kind of is juxtaposed, and I think it helps you notice it more. You know, like in a game like this where you're so focused on navigation and, you know, combat and stuff like this, it could be easy for a game to fade into the background, or a song to fade into the background a little bit, but because it is juxtaposed with everything, you do kind of have to stop and take notice of it. It kind of demands you do that.
Yeah, it lends each area a more noticeable and memorable feel. Like, you know, again, we'll talk about Wandering Ghosts on the next break, or after the next break, but I could never forget that area, even if I wanted to, because that song is insane. It doesn't make sense with the area it's in. But then also, when you talk about the inverted castle, which I guess in lore, the inverted castle is kind of like the real castle, as it were. Like, things are way more scary and bloody and skeleton-y over there. You know, things are pretty skeleton-y over in the normal castle too. But like, the soundtrack tends to match the mood in the inverted castle more. So I even also, again, I don't know if this is intentional, but I kind of view it as like the default castle is almost like an illusion. The crazy music is kind of like adding to that dreamlike quality of the whole thing. So again, I understand why like a preteen in 1997 or the early 2000s wouldn't understand that, but playing this as a 34-year-old man in 2024, I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty neat how this juxtaposition or this dissonance with the actual environments of the game, it adds to the weird, surreal nature of everything.
Yeah, you might call it a harmony of dissonance. You know?
Hey, I only know what the word dissonance means because of harmony of dissonance. So
we should, you know what? I don't know if we've ever said this. We agonized over the name of this podcast before we started it. And for a while, we liked the idea of modeling it after like a Castlevania, because the Castlevania titles all are music based, between aria, harmony, symphony, and stuff. I think the Japanese name for Symphony of the Night is like Nocturne in the Night or something like that.
I think
isn't it?
So, yeah.
It's all music based, and we thought about calling this podcast like Harmony of something before we landed on Bit Harmony.
I mean, yeah. Also, I just love Castlevania music, so yeah, it would have fit. But yeah, it's always hard to come up with like something that like makes sense to you and that you like, but also that you people don't need a full understanding of to like get the name or have it not sound awkward. I forget why I was trying to look something about Bit Harmony up. Maybe I was even just trying to Google it just to see what would happen. Now, like Bitcoin related or cryptocurrency related stuff is coming up when I try looking up Bit Harmony, which was not coming up before. So I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that very much. Did you have any other notes for Crystal Teardrops or Rainbow Cemetery? I don't know. This next section, I just felt like we just talk about whatever from like a gameplay perspective. So like anything we hadn't touched on, like, let's go. Anything you want to talk about specifically? Like, you know, we brought up a few things like the intro or the inverted castle and stuff, but was there anywhere you wanted to start?
Yeah, I think we should start with the intro. Like it is, I mean, it's so sick. Like it's so, it's so moody. It's so cool. Like I didn't get a chance to play much of this. I was so tired. I literally fell asleep trying to play this at like, you know, midnight last night on my Vita. But like that intro is so striking right away, like, which, yeah, we mentioned before, just like it is like the ending of Rondo of Blood, literally, where you're playing as Richter fighting Dracula. It's so cool, like going up the steps, seeing like the 3D clock tower in the background, like rotating as you're going up the steps, encountering Dracula, having that like great, you know, terribly voice acted, but still really cool and charming dialogue. I love how Dracula is so like carefree, like he's like leaned over in the chair and like
Mhm.
you know he doesn't seem to care about anything, and then like he throws like the wine glass on the floor and everything, and the whole have at you, that whole I just love, like, I love everything about that. And then after that whole setup is done, and you get like the scroll to set up the fact that like now Alucard is having to investigate, because essentially like and I'm not the lore expert of Castlevania, but my understanding of it is essentially that like Dracula's castle is supposed to come around every like 100 years or whatever. But like something is amiss because of the events of Rondo of Blood or whatever. Like something's wrong, and so Alucard has to basically like awaken and investigate. And he like it's just so cool, like that scene of him like running, like rushing through the forest,
dude.
And
it's
like
I'm getting chills just thinking about like how
It's
fast
so
the
sick.
forest is like scrolling behind him. It's so good.
and he jumps over like the drawbridge right before it closes. He like barely makes it. It's immaculate. Like, it really is immaculate. It's so cool. And of course, like it does the whole like, the power fantasy thing as well, where you're playing as like a fully souped up Richter and a fully souped up Alucard before they take it away. I know that's like a trope of the genre now, but it's perfect, man. Like, no notes. Like the opening of this game is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly, but yeah, like it is it might be my favorite video game opening of all time. Starting your game off right where the previous game ended. The only game I can think of off the top of my head that also did that was Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap. And that's also, it's super cool there too. But yeah, it's not nearly as like dramatic because everything is like so chibi and cute there. Whereas like Castlevania is for big boys kind of thing, or at least for like,
Oh yeah.
it's for like 14-year-old boys as opposed to like 10-year-old boys or whatever. Yeah, I also, to tie the intro in also to like some gameplay stuff that I really want to talk about with this game. Did you know, like when you're fighting Dracula as Richter, like you can't die. So if you lose all your health,
Right.
Maria shows up and helps you or whatever. This isn't important. Like it's a very negligible difference. But if you beat Dracula without needing Maria's help, you actually get very slightly better stats playing as Alucard for the rest of the game.
That's cool.
That's just cool, man. Like it doesn't really matter at all. Again, it's very negligible. Also, Symphony of the Night is super easy. Like you can break the game in like a billion ways in just a couple hours in. Like the moment you get the shield rod, you can basically kind of do whatever you want to the game.
Is really OP, yeah.
Yeah. And that's without getting into the Chrysogrim, which might be the most broken weapon in like any video game ever. Makes it a blast to just run through the game with it though. But yeah, I don't know, that there's something so special about the game because of like how big it is and how many items are in the game, how many different weapon types and spells and blah, blah, blah. That the fact that they also added these tiny little secrets, there's so much attention to detail. So the fact that, again, if you beat Dracula as Richter without dying or without being beaten, yeah, you get better stats. Like that is just such a cool little completely missable, not important detail, but it's so neat. In terms of like a couple other like weird, I don't know, secrets like that, I have a list of things here that I just want to list off.
I love it.
There's the set of boots. I think you get them in the waterfall area, and they serve no other function other than that they make Alucard 1 pixel taller. Like that.
Sick.
That is all they do. And like there is actually a 1 pixel difference. Like that is what they're for. I didn't know this until I was looking stuff up because I've never done this because there's no reason to. But you can get familiars in the game, like you can have a sword or a bat or whatever. You can level them up to level 99. Apparently, all of them become like super insane when they're that high level. People were talking about like if you have a level 99 fairy familiar, you basically can't die. I don't know why, but that's what I was seeing. Apparently, if you get your sword familiar up to level 99, you can also pick up an item version of the sword, and you can use that sword as an actual weapon. I don't know. That was mind-blowing to me. Again, this game is nearly 30 years old, and I'm still finding out all these secrets with it. Basically, every weapon has like an unlisted combo, and it's usually like fighting game inputs.
I did not know this. This is cool.
Like most of the weapons, it's either you do a quarter circle forward motion, an attack or a back forward motion and attack. Almost every weapon has one of those combos. And if they don't, oftentimes it's because you need to have a certain other thing equipped in your other hand to be able to do the combo. Like, that's why I noticed, like, when you have the Alucard sword at the very beginning of the game, before death steals all your cool items, if you do a quarter circle forward, Alucard does that, like, that teleporting slash move. And I never knew why, because I must have actually done that before as a kid.
Right.
And yeah, in regards to the shield rod that we talked about earlier, the rods are kind of like, they're like magical staffs that have different effects. The shield rod is like, it behaves as like a club. You bludgeon things with it. Specifically, when you have a shield equipped in your other hand, it gets us an attack boost. But then if you do like the magic spell with it, it does different like buffs or effects on you depending on what your other shield is, or depending on what the shield you have equipped is. So like I had a leather shield equipped, and because leather is made from hide, it summoned like this PNG of a cow, like a cow spirit, and it gave me a defense boost. And to be clear, like, none of this is spelled out for you in the game at all. Like, this is all just stuff you have to find. Maybe in like the instruction manual, some of this stuff was laid out. I don't know. I don't remember. I haven't looked at my physical copy of the game in like 20 years. But like, it's that level of secrecy that like it lends the game such, it really contributes to the atmosphere of the game. Like, no other Castlevania game feels like this before or after, because this game is so committed to like hiding these systems from you, but not in like a mean-spirited way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like we made the comparison earlier, but you know, it's interesting because I mean, I don't know if this is like a point of reference that Miyazaki or From have talked about, but like it does remind me of Dark Souls in a lot of ways. Where, you know, like not only just, you know, mechanically, but like the tone of it, the structure of it, even little stuff like, I think depending on if you're using like a two-handed weapon, I don't know if there's like a quip load in the game necessarily, but I think that like Alucard's dodge will be slower if you use like a two-handed weapon, you know, like, you know, stuff like that. Like it feels a lot like Dark Souls, even like the way experience kind of works in the game, and like you do have stats, like it is like an action RPG. However, similarly to something like Dark Souls, they feel like they facilitate skilled play, and not like it's essentially like giving you the tools to play in a skillful manner, and not like just, oh, if I whatever grind out and I have like this stat versus that stat, then all of a sudden I'm just gonna like breeze through the game. Now weapons let you do that, but like ultimately you do still have to like play the game, you know, you still have to learn, you know, what the game is kind of asking of you. And I think that also kind of reminds me a little bit of Dark Souls. So yeah, I don't know, that stuff hits.
Yeah, Dark Souls, I'm still playing a lot of Elden Ring right now, so like playing this, I was like, oh wow, this does feel even more like a 2D Souls game than I remember. Like, definitely not in terms of the difficulty, obviously, but like it really is like they really want you to be able to make cool builds with this even before that term was being used.
Yeah.
So for instance, on this playthrough, at least up until I got to the inverted castle and got the Chrysogrim, I was using, they're called nunchucks in the game, but I think they're supposed to be like the Tonfa sticks or whatever. They're not, I don't think they're actually nunchucks, but I never used those before. But I really like in any game nowadays, like having short range, like melee weapon stuff. Like I like, okay, you're giving me a bunch of cool swords, but what if instead of that I use like my fists or like melee, like little bludgeoning weapons, right? So I never used the nunchucks before until this playthrough. I was tearing through stuff that I usually have like not issues with, but like felt like it would take longer. So like the nunchucks, they function differently than like any other weapon in the game. Like they're very, very short range, but you do, when you hit the attack button, you do 2 attacks, and there must be a much higher critical hit rate, even though that's not listed anywhere in the game for them, because I was getting crits all the time. So like, if I could get like if I had to figure out ways to do it with some enemies, but if I could get like right up on an enemy and just like wail away at them for even just a few seconds, like it was done, like no matter what the enemy. I forget what their names are, like Malekiths or something, like these big like Cthulhu looking dudes that throw like black orbs at you. Even in the inverted castle, which I think is where the only place they are, I was absolutely destroying them like in a matter of like a second if I could just get up on them with the nunchucks. Like that was very, very satisfying to me. And honestly, even right now, I kind of want to play more, like just start a new file and do another run with them, or not with the nunchucks, but another run and find other cool weapons to use I've never used before. Did you have any like specific builds or weapons that you really like you've messed with in the game before, or was that too far back in your memory to know that kind of specific stuff?
It's been a long time, right? But I'm kind of with you. Like I always liked those short range things like daggers, like anything that had like little to no cooldown, where like you could just kind of like go up and just wail on people, you know, at a close range. I like that stuff. I also liked aren't there? I think there's like a few types of like katanas that Alucard can use. I think I think this game has like a Masamune essentially, which I always, in any game that has a Masamune, I like tracking that down. And so I like those. There I think is also a weapon that's like a little like a gem that he can kind of like throw, and it ricochets off of the walls.
That's one of the sub weapons. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember messing with some of the familiars. Yeah, the fairy familiar in particular. I remember that, and I don't know. I don't know if I can point to anything specific, but I definitely remember a few of those, and I remember feeling like that felt cool. Like you could, you really can kind of like make Alucard feel like your own. Like there's quite a lot of like variety that is possible here, and I mean, yeah, of course, there's some like truly broken stuff in there that's horribly imbalanced, but it's still really neat that much variety is in there for a game from 1997.
Right. Like it really has to be emphasized. Like, I've played this game like at least like 6 times in my life. I got the platinum on the PlayStation 4 version when that version came out. Like, it's been like 6 years, but I've played this game a lot, and I'm still finding new things about it, new ways that I want to play. Like, yeah, in that way, it's really like, again, most of the other Castlevania games that even came after that, they can't really compare. I would say Aria and Dawn of Sorrow are the closest because, yeah, they have the soul mechanics where every enemy in the game has a unique soul that you can get that gives you different passives or attacks or whatever. Right. Man, I really want to play Dawn of Sorrow. You can unlock Aria and Dawn of Sorrow. They take place in like 2034 or something like that. They're in the future. That alarmingly not that far in the future anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, it's 10 years out.
But because they take place in more modern times, you can like get guns and stuff as your primary weapon in those games. I remember the pistol you can find in Dawn of Sorrow is basically useless. However, if you do the boss rush mode, you can unlock a rocket launcher, which is pretty cool. Like, yeah, you have magic and rocket launchers. Like that's my kind of fantasy. You got modern military garbage, and then also I'm shooting like locusts out of my hands at you or whatever. That's just pretty cool. I do have a couple notes here. I do want to talk about the inverted castle, but before we do that, I want to read this off first. I mean, we talked a little bit about the inverted castle. So this is from the Shmupulations interview we talked about before. They asked, what is the max percentage you can get on the map? So again, when you explore the map, there's a percentage that goes up, but because there's actually 2 maps, the max percentage can go past 100%. This is Igarashi answering. It's actually 200.6%. If you uncover the entire castle, it's 100%, and the inverted castle also is 100%, plus the underground waterway part for the extra 0.6%. We set the normal castle completion at 100% so as to put one endpoint to the game's progression. What we were thinking is that people wouldn't defeat Dracula on their very first playthrough. We wanted them to defeat Richter once, then after feeling like they'd beat Richter and cleared the game, they'd decide to aim for 100% completion in the normal castle and uncover all the places they didn't get to. In doing so, they'd discover the inverted castle and feel like they'd found something special. When players defeated Richter, we wanted them to be in wondering, what happened to Death? What about all of Alucard's stolen equipment? Because, yeah, as we mentioned before, when you first enter the castle as Alucard, you have all these, like, basically endgame items equipped. You have the Alucard sword. It's one of the strongest swords in the game. You can one-shot everything, basically. But then Death steals all your items because he tells you to leave, and when you don't leave, he steals all of them. There is a famous glitch where if you time it right, you can backstep before that cutscene is done, and you get to keep your items. So that's also fun. When I got the platinum in the game, I think that's what I did.
That's fun.
So yeah, your items get stolen, and then you go through the game, and yeah, if you just play the game like normal, you find out Maria, who is the sister of Richter's love interest, she's saying that like, yeah, Richter, he's here. You find out that Richter is the one controlling the castle. You don't know why. Maria is saying like, oh, it can't be true, blah blah blah. But when you just beat the game without finding everything, yeah, you have to fight Richter, you kill him, and then the game just kind of ends. It's just kind of like a nothing ending going on.
Very unsatisfying, yeah.
Very, very unsatisfying. But then, yeah, I thought this was so genius that, like, because again, they don't signpost this at all, really. Like, until you start finding the secret items, there is no indication of this. Like, it even kind of is interesting and weird and cool that, like, oh, the hero of the previous game is actually the villain here. And it kind of sort of makes sense in a way. But no, it turns out that Richter is being controlled by Shaft, who's trying to resurrect Dracula again. But yeah, so when you start going for 100%, like if you find that ending unsatisfying, like, yeah, there's more, but you had to track it down. From my memory, there is no indication in like the manual or anything that there is an entire second castle that you have to find all the secret stuff to get to and unlock. And again, it is a full second half of the game. You'll get through it quicker than the first half, but it's also way harder. There's just it's way more dense than the base game. But yeah, I just think even by today's standards, I can't think of any game that's like doing something like that. You know, it's
insane.
It's pretty insane. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we should say too. I mean, yeah, the only reason that we knew to do that as kids is we had the strategy guide.
Right.
Like that was it. It's the only reason we knew. And like, you know, like, yeah, you do. He's right. Like Iga's right when he says that you do end the game feeling like really, like that was it. You know, it's unsatisfying. And the coolest stuff in the game, at least in my opinion, is in the inverted castle. Like,
yeah,
and the stuff that ties it back to like the other castle, like you get to go to like there's the Colosseum, you know, area of the game, but like the inverted Colosseum or whatever, where you just fight Grant, Sypha, and Trevor.
It's so cool. I forgot about it until this playthrough. I totally forgot.
It's like one of my favorite moments in the whole game. It's so neat. Like basically having to fight like the people from Castlevania 3. Like that's so sick, you know. And like as somebody who loved that game so much, like I have goosebumps even just thinking about it. Like I just remember like that moment. It's like seared into my memory. You know, all those like little things, like those cool like callbacks and story continuations, and I don't know, man. That stuff all hits it, and you really are not getting like the full experience at all if you don't go into this completely optional second half of the game that is like buried away. You have to find all this like hidden off the beaten path stuff. I think you need like a silver and gold ring, then you need like the holy glasses or whatever to even see that Shaft is controlling Richter. It's crazy. And then the fact that like the design of because it literally is just a flipped inverted castle, like it's the castle flipped. That's literally what it is, but it still like kind of works. Like they designed it in such a way that the map works if you just flip it upside down. It's kind of ingenious. Like I was wondering that too. Like I couldn't find any information about it, but I was trying to figure out like, did they plan this from the start or did this come like in the middle of development? Because like they must have planned some degree to have this from the start, because like I don't see how otherwise you'd be able to pull this off. Because yeah, like every single room in the castle, in the base castle, is in the inverted castle, just upside down. And like nothing is like broken in that way. Again, there are plenty of broken things in the game, mostly in terms of how strong you get. But yeah, nothing in terms of like things are even hidden in the same place. Like it's really cool. It is one of the most like shocking for its time moments in a video game ever. And again, it still totally works. Also, yeah, everything is all of a sudden like, again, we talked about how easy this game is, and it generally is. I did die a few times, like especially at some optional stuff like Galamith and whatever, but that's meant to be like the super boss of the game. But like when you first get to the inverted castle, unless you know to like, oh, I should go west and get to the library and get the Chrysogrim, you might die a little bit in the inverted castle. Like all of a sudden everything is like way harder and more challenging. Everything just seems like a little bit more menacing.
besides Lost Painting, most of the music is more threatening. A lot of the environments are like more, again, bloody and skeleton-y and stuff. Like it's a way more unfriendly place. And again, that's kind of why I think of it as like the real Dracula castle, and then like the inverted one is like this illusion-ish kind of thing.
Right.
I guess since we brought the Chrysogrim, real quick, we have to talk about the Chrysogrim, because I think it is genuinely, I think, the most broken weapon in any game ever, at least that I've played single player. But it also is so cool, because again, I'm not playing this for the story. It doesn't really matter to me that like,
right,
or rather, yeah, I am playing it for the story, so it doesn't matter to me that I'm blasting through. Like, it's also a nice power fantasy of like, yeah, Alucard is basically indestructible now. Now I can just go do whatever. I can beat Dracula in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, I don't need to be like challenged, you know, like extraordinarily by the game, right? Like,
right,
yeah.
Because like even if you don't use the Chrysogrim, this is nowhere near the level of difficulty that like Castlevania 3 is, which I know we talked about earlier. But Castlevania 3, I've been playing that on my Switch a little bit. That game is ridiculously hard, especially in the last like 3 or 4 levels is insane. Like it is.
Yeah.
You know, I've been using Grant being the pirate dude who can cling to walls and stuff, and like he's definitely like easy mode for the game, relatively speaking. But even with Grant,
as close as
like,
you can get to it, yeah.
Even with Grant, though, it is no joke. But yeah, Symphony of the Night it's meant to be a breezy experience. In fact, I do have a note about that real quick. But I guess we'll talk about the Chrysogrim first. Like, I don't know. Like, did you get the Chrysogrim on your first playthrough or whatever? Did you farm the schmoozes or whatever they're called in the library?
Yeah, I think the strategy guide actually specifically, I mean, I haven't looked at it or anything, but if I remember right, I think it specifically points you to it.
Mm-hmm.
And as something that you can get to like be extra, because you know back then like it was all about cheat codes and how do you get the most powerful in the game
right.
and whatever. Yeah, and so definitely we went after that, and that it's funny because I don't think I really like thought of it in that way back then. I'm like, oh, this is like so busted and the balance of the game. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, dude, like Alucard can just kill everything now.
it just looks super cool. So the Chrysogrim is a sword, but like you don't really see the sword. It just like you press the attack button and then like 8 like slashes just come out of Alucard. Like it's like in an instant. Like it just looks so cool. I know on the Smash Bros website when they revealed all the Castlevania stuff and then they uploaded a couple Castlevania songs, Sakurai's comment on the Lost Painting remix that we opened the episode with, it was just like, yeah, doesn't this song bring back memories of just farming the Chrysogrim at like 3 a.m.? It's just like, yeah, it does. It is real funny that you just have to kill a random, you have to farm it off of a random enemy. Like it's not something that like you find in the environment. I guess, you know, I have to assume that's on purpose, that they put the most powerful weapon in the game like on a random farm, and a pretty easy to get farm. Like you can kind of beeline directly from the start of the inverted castle directly to the library and just get this in the first like 20 minutes of being to the inverted castle, and then just kind of blast through the rest of the game, which is mostly what I did on this playthrough once I stopped being lost. But you know, I just think it's real neat that like, because again, that tells me that there's a consideration put into like, well, we should make this easier than Castlevania games generally are, but the most broken thing, we want to kind of hide that in a weird spot as opposed to being something you find just by map completion. I think that's kind of genius in a way, and I appreciate it. And again, there's so much broken stuff in the game that isn't as hidden as the Chrysogrim, so it doesn't really matter that much if you don't find it.
Right.
I do want to read off this quote about the difficulty real quick. So this is the interviewer asking, or rather saying, the Castlevania series is known as a 2D action game that sets the bar high with a very high difficulty. I think with the emphasis of RPG elements in Symphony, more players than ever have been allowed to enjoy the series. How has the response from fans been in that regard? Igarashi responded, the one thing we heard the most was, it's too easy. We expected to hear that, though. There were also some people who said it was too difficult, and it brought home to me the difficulty of making something that's for everyone, which I think that's also, you know, I think Nintendo also ran into that in like the Wii era and stuff of like just how hard of a thing that is. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Continuing, Symphony of the Night has also gained a lot of support from female users, definitely because of the difficulty settings, but perhaps also because of the visual style. So in addition to allowing people who couldn't beat previous Castlevanias to play, we've also successfully broken through to a whole new class of players, and I'm very happy that we've overturned the hard game image of Castlevania. So I thought that was very, very interesting that like that was a conscious goal from the start.
A choice. Mm-hmm.
Right. Not even just the difficulty, but also like, yeah, I have a hunch they probably went with Kojima as the artist because they also wanted to have something on the cover that was attracting more of a female audience. And yeah, I think it really worked. And then in response to the same question, Furukawa, one of the designers, said, many people also said, I don't know anything about Castlevania, and this was fun. I have mixed feelings about that, which I thought was like a funny quote.
Yeah, that is a funny quote. I mean, I don't know if that's just because there's so much consideration paid to this being like a Castlevania game that really cares about, you know, tying into the series past or whatever. So maybe he's like, it's a little bit weird to me that people are coming into this for the first time as like their entry point of the series.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it's kind of a great entry point to the series too,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in a lot of ways. So
I mean,
don't
yeah,
know.
it was my entry point to the series as like a 14-year-old, and then yeah, it has become one of my favorite series of all time to the point where yeah, I make these characters in Elden Ring because y'all won't make a new Castlevania for me to play.
And it's funny too because we've been talking about like From and Dark Souls and stuff, and like I think everybody who's a Castlevania fan that played Bloodborne was like, just let these guys make a 3D Castlevania game.
Just do it.
Like for real.
On top of my Alucard build in Elden Ring, I also made a very good Simon Belmont build. I couldn't find like a good Holy Cross equivalent, but then in the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, there is a pretty good equivalent to that. Also, they have throwing axes in the DLC, so
Sick.
I need to revisit that Simon Belmont character in Elden Ring soon. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but this also, like, the storyline had like a lot of attention paid to it, which I assume was partially Igarashi, who just again had come off of writing a dating simulator game. So again, this serves as a direct sequel storyline wise to both 3 and Rondo of Blood, but it also sets up a lot of stuff in the future, including, you know, Bloodlines on Genesis that would eventually tie into Portrait of Ruin later, but then also Alucard shows up in Aria and Dawn of Sorrow, and it sets him up as like this force in the Castlevania universe going forward, because I think he'd been sleeping for hundreds of years between 3 and Symphony of the Night.
Right.
It set up a lot of stuff, but I think most interesting is how they handle Richter as a character, because Richter, my understanding from like lore that I've never experienced, but what people say is that Richter was kind of like the most powerful of the Belmonts because of Trevor marrying Sifa, and that so then all of a sudden the Belmonts could also do magic, so that Richter was supposed to be like the wunderkind of the Belmont clan, basically.
They fly now.
Right. But that he felt so ashamed that he was like possessed by the Dark Priest Shaft and helped to revive Dracula, that he gave up the vampire killer and gave the vampire killer whip over to the Morris family, because there are no more Belmonts between Symphony of the Night, or at least that you hear of. There obviously are some, but you don't hear about them between Symphony of the Night and then Julius Belmont in Aria of Sorrow. So like the Belmont clan kind of like disbanded and like fell into obscurity for a while, and then it was like the Morris clan that became like the main protectors from vampires, I guess. I think that's super cool. Also, in Portrait of Ruin, you actually get to talk to Richter's spirit and like redeem him. It's actually like my favorite aspect of Portrait of Ruin, the fact that like you are it's genuinely cool, because like Richter seemed like a cool character. Also, Castlevania Nocturne, like the second Castlevania series, animated series on Netflix, Richter is the main character because it's kind of loosely adapting Rondo of Blood and seemingly Symphony of the Night in the second season. So I have a newfound appreciation for Richter in a lot of ways. Also, the fact that he's in Smash as a playable character is really cool, but also it's like his dumb white bandana. I don't know. I always thought that was kind of sick. My favorite moment in Castlevania Nocturne is when he finally puts the bandana on and starts unleashing magic. It's one of the best like shonen anime like revenge moments in
I
any
still
show
gotta
I've ever
watch
seen.
it.
It's so
Yeah.
good. You're gonna love it. I think it's better than the first Castlevania series on Netflix, and I quite like that a lot. So
I really liked it too. Yeah, I liked the first series. So, and then like all the stuff going on with like, the teases for the next one too. Like I gotta catch up.
yeah. So yeah, hey, if you don't have a PS4 or a way to easily play Symphony of the Night, but you like what you heard here, you can start watching Castlevania Nocturne on Netflix. I think the second season is in January. I do also want to shout out, this doesn't really fit anywhere else, but also if you want to experience this music, but you can't play Symphony of the Night, but you still want to hear it in a video game, Dead Cells, if you buy the Castlevania DLC, basically the entire Symphony of the Night soundtrack is in Dead Cells if you want to play Dead Cells, which
yeah, that rules.
I don't fully recommend playing it on Switch, but it's still fun on Switch, but it's pretty cool that like they paid a lot of attention and put a lot of love into the Castlevania stuff in Dead Cells, including a playable Alucard skin. It's very, very good. Real quick though, I did want to note when we're talking about the lore and stuff, again, I talked about how Igarashi genuinely cares about Castlevania and especially its lore. That same Shmupulations interview, they were asking both Igarashi and Hagihara, how is it that Alucard, despite being Dracula's son, can use holy weapons and sub-weapons? Igarashi said, "This isn't officially in the story, but in the backstory in my head, his mother was descended of holy blood, so he can use those weapons. That's why Alucard has both the power of light and dark, which was something we decided on at the outset of the development." Then Hagihara says, "In the early planning stages, we had an alignment system. If you used the sub-weapons a lot, you would have a holy alignment, and if you use magic a lot, you'd have a dark alignment."
That's cool.
That is very cool, and I'd never heard that before. And then Igarashi followed that up with saying, "Yeah, and the ending would have changed based on your alignment." So again, it was kind of doing like a Demon Souls thing again, like over a decade before Demon Souls. So that was just a really cool like gameplay tidbit that I had never heard of before. So I thought that was neat.
I never heard that either. Yeah, that's sick. I mean, it just goes to show like how forward thinking like these dudes were like making this game. Like again, like it's easy for us to say like Symphony of the Night is maybe overrated by modern standards or whatever, but we can't deny like the impact that the game had and like how ahead of its time it really was, and even the stuff that didn't make it into the game was ahead of its time.
Right. Like they had to cut out this super cool sounding system that, hey, I would love if they wanted to revisit that in a new Castlevania game.
Yeah, no kidding.
It sucks because like, I don't know that I have faith in Konami to, even if they did have a new Castlevania game, that it would actually be good or whatever.
Sure.
But in a perfect world, I would love to see a new Castlevania game with any kind of system like that. Did you have any other tidbits that you wanted to touch on or anything before we go on to our next break?
No, real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know we're running long. But I do want to just quickly mention, and I kind of brought this up a little bit earlier, but Symphony of the Night has like a little bit of like a religious horror element to it that like really religious horror has always been very effective for me. And it's always been something that like I've always found as somebody who grew up very religious and stuff. Like I find that kind of thing very powerful, and so a lot of the like cathedral settings and like obviously the confessional room and stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you're talking about it because that was like the last thing I was going to bring up was the confessional room. But please go on.
yeah, that stuff is very effective to me. I'm instantly unnerved in like in a setting like that. Even though like the confessional room doesn't have anything that on paper is like super scary, it's just a weird off the beaten path thing that like I don't know, like it always unnerved me. Like it always made me feel a sense of unease. Even like some of the boss fights, like I don't remember what it's called, but there's that boss that's like just a big mass of like human bodies that like spill off of it and stuff. Like there's just stuff about it that just kind of like, I don't know, like really kind of like made an imprint on me playing the game. Like Like there were some like genuinely like scary things in that game for me playing it when I did. And looking back on it now, I'm like, whatever, I'm like, a grown man now, but back then, like, that stuff scared the crap out of me, dude.
Yeah, like that's the thing, is that, like, yeah, as an adult, I don't think it's like meant to be scary. It is, again, it's
right.
But it is a level above like the Scooby-Doo zoinks that we were talking about earlier. Like,
right.
Again, to bring it back to Souls and Bloodborne, it kind of reminds me of how in Bloodborne the game starts off and you think it's just like a werewolf and like witch hunting simulator before it like reveals its true like horrors and stuff.
Eldritch, Lovecraftian nature, yeah.
Right. And like there's not much like explicit like Lovecraftian stuff in here. Again, there's some designs that elicit that, like the Mordecai, I think that's maybe what that Cthulhu looking thing is called. But like there is just enough like unsettling stuff on the fringe of the game that like really makes it memorable. Like, yeah, I'm with you. Like cathedrals are like terrifying to me in real life, just like the level of like, and again, I live in Germany now. I've been in like a major big ass like European cathedral, and it's easy to imagine why like people were more scared of God like hundreds of years ago, if that makes sense. Because like,
yeah, totally, you feel small in there.
You feel small and insignificant, and like that's what they want. That's what they want you to feel. And like there is beauty to like the architecture and stuff too. I'm not trying to take away from that either. But like, yeah, cathedrals, like genuine cathedrals, are genuinely terrifying. And I think Symphony of the Night does a good job of capturing that. And then, yeah, the confessional room that we've kind of been alluding to, it's just this singular room in like the cathedral area. And if you sit in the booth or whatever you call it, that's a booth, right? A confessional booth.
Yeah.
You get like, there is like a ghostly priest or whatever. So like, yeah, you think, okay, I'm just going to go in this booth, and you can actually sit Alucard down in the booth, and then the curtains close, and then you get attacked. Like, it's not for much damage, but like you get attacked in there. And then if you leave the booth and then go on the other side of the booth and you get into the side where the priest is normally in and sit down, you also get attacked. It's like, but I should also mention the music playing in this room is downright horrifying. It is like, it is, again, I just replayed this a few days ago, this section. I was playing this at like 6 a.m. My wife is still sleeping. I wanted I was trying to push through hard to beat the game before we did this podcast. And I got to this, it's still dark, it's like rainy outside, I'm cold. And I get to this confessional room, I forgot how terrifying the music is. It's genuinely alarming, that music in that area.
It's like a creepypasta or something.
Yeah, and like, again, I'll have it playing beneath us or whatever. I'm sure if you hear it out of context and just us talking about it, it doesn't sound that scary. But like, again, you have to remember the context of like, if you're playing this in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and like you stumble into this room, especially if you're playing late at night or whatever, like it's genuinely scary. And like, yeah, it probably just imprinted on me. It's probably not that scary now, but like it genuinely like gave me the heebie-jeebies when I was playing this the other day. And again, I'm 34 years old,
Yeah, I think the confessional room, I think, has a couple of random roles that you can get in it, where like there are a couple of like different things that can happen to you there, including like roles where you're not harmed.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's based on anything. I don't know if there's like stuff that you do throughout the course of play that maybe impacts what you can get, but like there's a situation where the priest can leave you, like the priest can leave wine or grape juice or whatever rather than attacking you.
Okay.
There's one where like when you go to the priest side, like there's like the ghost of like a crying mother that like sits down and just like cries in the confessional booth, like just creepy stuff like that, man. Yeah, it's a lot. Like, I don't know, there's just certain stuff in the game that just like freaked me out. And like, there's some stuff, like we talked about the fight in the reverse Coliseum with the Castlevania 3 protagonists before. I find stuff like that cool. But like even back then I thought that was neat because it was like my tether to a game that I loved or whatever. But that's also pretty creepy.
Yeah. Well,
like I don't know.
You also have to consider it from Alucard's perspective, like that those were his allies hundreds of years ago.
Friends,
and they're, it's like the castle is manifesting his memories and throwing them in his face and attacking them with his own memories. Yeah, that's very sad. You know, we didn't talk that much about it, but Alucard has a very sad story of like he watched his mother be tied to a stake and burned because they found out she was married to Dracula or whatever. And Dracula, you know, his whole thing is he wants revenge on humanity for killing his wife. But I think Lisa is her name. Her last words to Alucard were like, "Don't hate humanity. Like they have it hard enough as is. Like don't blame them for this." And Alucard takes that to heart and uses that as his strength to defy his father or whatever. Like it's a very basic story. Like it's not going to win any awards or whatever, but it's genuinely like it's good. It's good storytelling. It's effective storytelling. Again, that's kind of how I feel about Castlevania as a whole series, and why I think it was actually a good choice for an animated Netflix adaptation. Is like there's just enough there that like gets your imagination going when you're playing these as a kid, but not so much that like an adaptation is going to ruin those memories of it, right? Like that's I remember people really scoffed at an animated Netflix show, and I was like, no, this could be amazing. And yeah, I really love both those shows. They're pretty good.
There's some truly beautiful stuff in there in the game, and again, a lot of it is kind of basic, but Alucard's character, the way it resolves, especially when you get the game's like full like real ending, and you know like there's a moment that Alucard has with Richter where Richter's kind of like, yeah, he's got a lot of shame, you know, about everything that's happened, and Alucard says the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. You know, and like that quote is so salient, man. Like that, and I don't even think it's originally from I think that's a quote from somewhere else, but
yeah,
like it's so salient in the context of the game, and it's so salient to real life. That's true. You know, like that's absolutely true, and you know, Alucard kind of takes that upon himself, and I don't know, like that all resonates in whatever simplistic story that's going on here. I think the game actually has something it wants to say. You know, it's good stuff.
Yeah, genuinely, I think Igarashi is like a decent writer. Like again, he doesn't get the chance to like flaunt it mostly, but like I think what's there is good. I don't really remember the story of Bloodstained that much, but I guess that's fine.
Me either.
Anyway, do we want to go on our last break then?
Let's do it.
On our last break, we've got Wandering Ghosts and Lost Paintings. So you got some bangers for this final break.
Oh yeah.
And we will be right back. That was Wandering Ghosts and Lost Painting off of Castlevania SotN. I guess we gotta get that in there at least one more time. So yeah, Wandering Ghosts. Why does it sound like this down here?
Why indeed?
Like, again, I said before, it's either this or Crystal Teardrops is my favorite song in the game. Again,
Yeah.
I think I have to lean on Crystal Teardrops as like the definitive number one, but like Wandering Ghosts is so insane that I can't help but like it's always going to be
crazy.
It's always going to be in the conversation. It genuinely is like someone was just punching a synthesizer and then this just happened to end up coming out and it was good.
It's so all over the place, but like it works. Like I don't really understand it. Like it's the kind of like it's so experimental. I think from like a technical level, this is my favorite song in the game. From like the enjoyment of listening to it and like picking it apart. Like I love how percussive it is. I love how funky it is. The bass is crazy. The guitar lead is crazy. It's like jazzy and fun. There's horns in it, of course. The horn boys get their due in this song. You've got those little like warbly like ghost sounding notes in there, but then like once the main guitar like kind of takes control of the lead, it's got a bit of like Spanish flavor to it.
It's got a total like Spanish flavor to it. Yeah, it's insane.
It's crazy. Like, yeah, like Spanish like flamenca guitar in there. Like it goes, it's jazz, it's funk, it's bass, it's horns, it's Spanish. Like it's everything. And like it's a mess, but it's kind of a beautiful mess.
And again, to emphasize, this is playing in like a coliseum inside of Dracula's castle where seemingly people were being forced to fight to the death against like demons or whatever. Like it makes no sense. I mean, yeah, like just in the first 30 seconds of the song, it's already like gone forward and retreated back like 3 separate times down 3 separate paths before it finally settles into what it is, kind of. But even then, even once it finally does settle in, there's still like cheesy theremin stuff around there, around the minute mark.
It rules.
Just because like, hey, we need some spooky stuff in here. All right, we got like 7 theremin notes, I guess, to get in here. But okay, that's enough. Bring the Spanish guitar back. Yeah, this is like, again, it's not my objective favorite, but like this is to me, this is the song from Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It is just so representative of not just this game, but kind of this era of, oh, all of a sudden as a composer, I don't need to make chip tunes anymore. I can do literally whatever I want because we just have this on a CD. Okay, I'm going to do literally everything in one song.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe it works as well as it does.
Yeah, when it comes to Lost Painting, again, not that much to say. I just felt like we should just kind of bookend it with, our intro was the Smash Ultimate version of this.
Right.
Yeah, this also just had a Weather Channel vibe going on. I guess this time you're no longer reporting from Dracula's castle, but from the inverted castle. I do want to quickly, we talked about this game on the mid 2024 midpoint check-in, but Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore,
yes,
the Lost Painting, like to me this is just like I know Jewel of Faramore was inspired by a lot of things, in particular the Zelda CDI games, but like when I think of like the music and stuff, like I think of Lost Painting in terms of what Jewel of Faramore reminds me of. Like it's just so,
my first note is feels like it'd be at home in the Arzette soundtrack.
Yeah,
that's my first note.
Like it just does. Like it just feels like a song you would hear on like an interactive encyclopedia CD-ROM from 1996. Like it just has that vibe, and that is, again, we've talked about Weather Channel and all this stuff before on this podcast, but like that, if I could distill my music taste down to one thing, yeah, it's local on the 8's Weather Channel music from 30 years ago.
Yeah, and it even works in like those little corny things, like on the third beat there's a little like wood knocking sound. Like I love crap like that. There's like multiple bell sounds in the mix. Like, yeah, I just, it's a beautiful song. Like and I love that stuff, cheesy though it may be. Like I love it. I think it's great.
I think it's also nice, you only hear this in the inverted castle, in like a couple areas of the inverted castle, and we talked before about how the inverted castle is way more dangerous and like threatening than the base game. So like to even musically it is. So to get this song as like kind of like a reprieve, Again, it plays in the inverted library, which is where you can farm the chrysogrim. So it's like all right, I've made it home. Like when I'm replaying this game and I'm going for the chrysogrim, it's like, oh, I'm safe. I'm in the library. We're gonna get the chrysogrim soon. We just get to listen to this song. It's just nice. The game takes like a little pleasant turn at that point.
Yeah, totally. It's great.
And with that said, are we ready then to move on to the YouTube comment oversharing corner?
It's been a journey. Let's cap it off right.
Let's cap it off right. So as a reminder, this is the section of the show where we read off any funny or memorable or interesting or insane comments we've stumbled across while grabbing songs for this episode. We've each grabbed a couple here. I guess I'll just start with this one, mostly because we were just talking about Wandering Ghosts. This is from YouTube user Zarir3726 on Wandering Ghosts 2 years ago. Some effing king requested this on our local radio station. I thought I was going insane. And yeah, imagine being like some middle-aged person that has no idea what Castlevania is, and you're just
with
driving
no
along.
Context. And just hearing this, like, what? Can you imagine being on like a road trip at like 2:00 in the morning, tuning into that local station when this happened to come on? Like, oh my god.
I think that was my favorite thing I found this episode. It was just incredible.
Amazing. Well, I have, I guess we'll continue the F-bomb thing here, because I found another comment from somebody who dropped an F-bomb. YouTube user Victoriae Y2M commented on Rainbow Cemetery 7 years ago, "If this is where gays lie, then sign me the F up." Which I thought was great. Also, shouts to them. I noticed they have a Porter Robinson Worlds profile picture on YouTube, so they're probably pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like them.
Sounds like it. Hey, if you're commenting on Rainbow Cemetery, not even like one of the standout songs from Symphony of the Night, like, you're probably pretty cool in general, regardless of the profile pic thing. But yeah, that adds to it. We got YouTube user Jack Brigoli 7452 commenting on Lost Painting 2 years ago. I thought this comment was very funny. If only Bram Stoker could see the impact his genius mind had on the world. Which, like, okay, I love video games and video game music and blah blah blah. I've never read the original Bram Stoker's Dracula. I have a hunch that's probably a more important, like, human, like, touchstone than Lost Painting. It's just my hunch. Yeah. But I guess I can't speak to that.
What it really is, it's the second if only. The second all caps if only is what really pushes this over the edge. Like, they had to really, like, sell it. If only. Yeah. Bram Stoker could see the impact his genius mind had on the world. Lost Painting really putting a thumbprint in the annals of history.
Right, like the Bram Stoker wrote fiction that, like, inspired, like, all of fiction for the rest of humanity. If only he could hear Lost Painting. Dude, if Bram Stoker could hear Lost Painting, he'd probably have, like, a seizure or something. Like, what are you talking about?
Yep, pretty good. Okay, should I read this other one that I found here?
Yeah, go for it.
YouTube user Nemesis5602 commented on The Tragic Prince 8 years ago. The Tragic Prince of Bel-Air.
Mm-hmm. I saw that one too.
Which is already funny. Mm-hmm. And of course this, like, devolved into people, like, singing the rest of the song in the replies. And, doing, like, vampire versions of them, which is funny. I won't read them all. But there was one that got me real good that I do just have to shout out. Some YouTube user MGO Pro, who responded, "My castle got turned upside down."
Yeah. So, yeah. I did, when I was hunting for comments, I did find, the Tragic Prince of Bel-Air, but I did not, I neglected to look into the replies because,
it rules.
I would have added that myself if I saw that my castle got turned upside down. That's genius. Like, that, if only Bram Stoker could see that. I think that's more genius than
the legacy. Yeah, that's the real legacy, is these comments and these replies on The Tragic Prince. That got me good, dude. Like, when I saw, like, That is like true, like they should be proud of that.
Yeah.
They should really be proud of that.
That's going in the Bit Harmony YouTube comment Hall of Fame if we ever get one of those going.
My castle got turned upside down, dude.
I will say I've been very slowly watching it, but I've been watching a little bit of the Bel Air show, like the modern reboot of the Fresh Prince. Actually kind of decent. I'm actually really liking it in terms of like, it's very over the top teenage melodrama like Degrassi. I mean, it's way higher quality and better acting than Degrassi, but it is of that same ilk.
Hey now, don't be careful how you talk about Degrassi. I love Degrassi.
I know you do. I watched the whole series while playing Elden Ring 2 years ago. It was a time.
It's an experience.
But yeah, Bel Air. I liked it so far more than I thought I would, but I'm only like 4 episodes in.
Nice.
I just realized,
I love the original series, like genuinely.
I do too, up until like season 5, and then it's pretty bad. But like the first 4 seasons, yeah, I genuinely really like the original Fresh Prince. I just realized that not only did we not talk about the circle of this episode, but we're not going to get to for a while because you're not going to be here for the next.
Oh yeah,
episode.
That's true.
That's. I mean,
fine.
I'm not fully caught up. I just watched episode 8 earlier today, so. By
the time I come back, you'll be caught up. Yeah.
We'll do spoiler casts under the guise of it being like a Donkey Kong Country episode or whatever.
Circle spoiler cast. I'm sure everybody will be thrilled.
Especially Boogs.
Oh yeah.
Next up, we've got YouTube user Maxwell Graves 365 commented on Crystal Teardrops 1 year ago. Tomorrow's my Saturday, and I'm going to wake and bake and clean the whole house spotless with this on loop heart emoji. Yeah, I don't have much to say about that. I think that sounds like hell, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, me too.
As someone that loves Crystal Teardrops, I don't want to listen to it on repeat while doing the things that he was just talking about. Also, I'm a big, if I find a new song that I love, I want to hear it on loop for like at least an hour or maybe even 2. Like, I really want to absorb it, kinda. My wife is not that at all. And I don't remember what song it was, but a couple years ago, I was trying to do that with a song while we were playing Salmon Run in Splatoon. And after like 3 listens, she was almost in tears. She was like, "Can we please listen to something else? Like, I can't do this." So I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, well, I mean, Salmon Run, you're already going through so much duress as well. Like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. I was just causing my wife to have aneurysms. Our last YouTube comment this episode, which. Yeah, we'll hold on. This one to me was a doozy. This is YouTube user Inceptional commented on A Walk on a Rainbow. This is the song that Jim requested from Tetris Attack 3 years ago. This tune just made me cry. No tune on Genesis has ever managed that, which is diabolical. I think that's like an evil comment. Like that is a Dracula comment if there ever was one.
Yeah, I could imagine him throwing down a glass of wine when saying that, much like Dracula at the beginning of SotN.
This tune just made me cry. No tune on Genesis has ever managed that. But like, I just love the idea of like, you hear this beautiful song, and then you comment on how beautiful it is and that made you cry, but you still feel the need to do weird console warring stuff. But this is 3 years ago. Like, who cares about Genesis versus Super Nintendo anything nowadays?
Who is still talking? It's over. It happened. Like, it's done. Who's still hanging on to this?
Apparently Inceptional is like. Also, I do understand the from the perspective of like the Genesis sound chip is very harsh, but like still, I'm pretty sure you could find an emotional Genesis song if you think about it, dude. It's fine.
They probably never listened to a Genesis soundtrack ever in their life.
Yeah. Why does it sound like this down here? Because it's not on Genesis, I guess.
Why does this sound like this down here is pretty much like a YouTube comment said in real life. Yeah. That's basically what that was. Maybe that's why we love it so much. That's basically what that was.
It does have the cadence of a YouTube comment. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, with that said, that has been the YouTube comment oversharing corner for this episode, and in fact, the majority of this episode of Bit Harmony. I'm going to hand it over to Seth to do the usual Patreon shoutouts.
Yes. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for your support. Send in your voicemails. Again, you can email them to us, bitharmonypod@gmail.com, or dial 216-230-8540 to get your voicemails on the show. We always love those. There are links in the show notes to that. Links in the show notes to the Discord community. You can join up there as well. Chat with us about whatever version of Tetris you're trying to get on your phone. And we'd love to chat with you there as well. And yeah, of course, there are links to the Patreon, which you can head over to for early access and other exclusive perks. And I want to thank Brian Morris, who joined at the 1-Up tier. And I want to welcome back the Don Rob, who came back into the Patreon this past week. Over at the Triforce tier. So thanks so much to y'all, and indeed thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon. Bit Harmony is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you. So let's thank our Triforce tier. Thank you to Adam Caparello, Bowza, Dan Andaluma, Danielina Hosa, Foolish Fuji, John Cummins, Josh Vaughn, Ligerwoods 330, Shy Guy, Sparky, the Don Rob, and Uncle Randy. And thank you to our Golden Banana tier, Big Dogs Only, Bill Tucker, Bob Blah Blah, SAZ, Gamer Jason, Liam D, Marcus O'Neill, Phelan Ward, Presto the Magnificent, Rob Yapel, Sean Ashton, Solo, and Tim A. Thank you all so much for your support on Patreon. You can check it out with a 7-day free trial as well if you want to see what all the fuss is about. Links are in the show notes. Thanks, everyone.
Brian Morris, I believe that's who Richter handed the vampire killer off to in his shade.
The heir to the vampire killer, Brian Morris, new 1-Up tier patron. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so then our next episode, which again, Seth will be absent for, is going to be out, or should be out, on October 20th. My wife will be guest co-hosting that episode with me. It's going to be some kind of Yokai Watch thing. I haven't settled fully on the details yet, but I think probably what we're going to do is just talk about the entire series, at least on the 3DS. She's never played. That
makes sense.
Yeah, she's never played 4, so there's nothing to really talk about there. So maybe kind of like our Monkey Ball episode where we just kind of talk about each, because I think she's played all the 3DS entries, including the spin-off. So we'll probably try and do that is how I'm guessing this will go. But there's a lot of logistics to figure out, but that's a problem for me in like a week and a half, not for me now, where my main problem is going to be editing this podcast.
Yeah. I can't wait to listen to it. I always love it whenever she's on a podcast with you, and I Yokai Watch it. I played the first one on 3DS and liked it fine, so it'll be a bunch of new music for me, so I'm looking forward to it.
It's very theremin-y, so if you want more theremin filled stuff, you'll have that. Yeah, I think it'll be good. I'm looking forward to having her on. Looking forward. I also figured like there's basically no chance that you or I would ever choose to cover Yokai Watches because I don't have the information or the knowledge about it. So this seemed like the perfect time to do that. Also, she's constantly playing Yokai Watch music around the house, so it'll be good.
Perfect for spooky season.
Yeah, she'll have an outlet. Other people can finally be forced to listen to Yokai Watch music. Again,
she'll have a captive audience.
Exactly. Yes. With that said, are we ready for the haikus then?
Let's do it. Yeah,
all right.
I have it.
I think you went first last time, so I'll just go for it.
Go for it.
I honestly didn't really have an idea for this one, so it's pretty dumb, but here we go. Ghost-like, haunting shelves, endless ramen bowls instead of my chrysogrim. This being a reference to the fact that when you're killing the ghosts that drop the chrysogrim, they can also randomly drop ramen bowls.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Endless ramen bowls instead of my chrysogrim. Well, with mine, I had to make my haiku had to be a love poem.
Yeah.
To Alucard for obvious reasons. So here we go. Pierce night with pale skin. Platinum hair flows eternal. There's much to confess.
That's pretty cool. Honestly, like, if I was Alucard, I'd be kind of like, how do I get in contact with this Seth guy?
I mean, hey,
leave a voicemail.
Alucard, leave a voicemail. It would be so rad if somebody listening to this like did a RP as Alucard leaving a voicemail. be my dream.
Dude, the original voice actor for Alucard, because they redid the voices in the PSP version, but the
Right.
original voice actor, he voiced the librarian vampire in Bloodstained, which I thought was super cool because
sick.
he has such
Yeah.
a distinct, like, crazy deep voice. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't even really fit Alucard to me, but that's also kind of why I like it. So I don't know who the name of that actor, but hey, if somehow the actor for Alucard, if you want to leave a voicemail, please go for it.
That would be pretty good. I would welcome it.
But yeah, that has been the episode. Thank you all for listening. Our outro this episode is from the Sega Saturn version of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I've actually never heard this before. It is called Beginning 2 or Beginning Inverted. This is a rearrangement of the first stage theme from Castlevania 3, as a reference to the fact that Alucard is in Castlevania 3. It's just like a jazzy little version of Beginning. I thought it was fun. Seemed like a
Nice.
fun way to end the episode on. But anyway, yeah. Thank you all for listening. Tune in next time for Yokai Watch, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.